Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat group during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
My question is, when there are unsubstantiated claims or manufactured claims of UAPs or kind of false information that's put out there.
I have seen the logs. I have seen the videos. We have attempted shoot downs of UAPs on a regular basis. We're talking as recently as last Friday.
My question is, when there are unsubstantiated claims or manufactured claims of UAPs or kind of false information that's put out there.
I have seen the logs. I have seen the videos. We have attempted shoot downs of UAPs on a regular basis. We're talking as recently as last Friday.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome. Tonight we have a very special show planned for you. Most of you know that I have been following George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell for quite some time. We have provided a mountain of evidence, for example, that the Bob Lazar story is completely and totally manufactured fake story. Bob Lazar is not now, nor was he ever a scientist. His education was fake. In fact, he's a convicted pimp and a liar who was bankrupt at the time that he came out with his story. And he came out with his story, coincidentally, just about 1 year after John Lear was on George Knapp's show describing the exact facility that Bob Lazar would later get a job at. What a coincidence. And work on the same spaceships that were in the government possession at Area 51 that John Lear talked about. I believe that George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, Corbell especially, manufacture fake stories about aliens in order to personally profit. And although Corbell has claimed they don't make any money from this, I've challenged them, release your tax returns. George Knapp reports on UFOs and aliens at his day job, plus he has the Mystery Wire, plus he has the monetized podcast with Jeremy Corbell, all monetized. They both made a lot of money off of that Bob Lazar documentary, because all you have to do in order to believe that the Bob Lazar story is true is ignore the mountain of facts and evidence that that guy's not a real scientist and in fact is a convicted pimp whose wife at the time, interestingly, was a convicted murderer. This would preclude him from working at any secret or even sensitive government location because it was the height of the Cold War. They can't have somebody with strong ties to organized crime who's a convicted felon, convicted murderer, in fact, as a spouse of somebody that works at one of these places. These things just don't work. So Corbell, we saw in the clip in the beginning, by the way, that was fair use. He has pretended that he sees classified information from the government all the time, never faced any consequences. He's somehow getting all these leaks of government UFO and UAP videos. I freely admit this is speculation, but I believe he was getting some of those leaks from Dave Grush. Interestingly, he won't confirm or deny where the leaks come from because he's a journalist now. Sure he is. Of course, there was the multitude of completely and totally fake UFO videos that he still profits from. Do you ever notice when you watch a news program like CNN or Fox News and they're talking about UFOs, they play his fake pyramid UFO videos? Does he get a royalty for that? And if so, is that even legal since that's government property that was leaked to him? Is it legal for him to profit from these things? Who knows? But he's exactly profiting from these things, including leaks from apparently classified briefings, like the Mosul orb image he claims was leaked. It's a still image from a video that was in a classified briefing. Then how is he legally able to release it and profit from it? Who knows? But besides me, there's many people that have been closely monitoring Jeremy Corbell and catching him in a lot of lies. And tonight's guest, Grier, is one of those people. Tonight, we're going to show you smoking gun evidence and proof that in the case of the 29's Palms case, for those unaware, it was a case where military exercises were taking place and they were dropping flares. Jeremy Corbell turned that into a triangle spaceship and made a lot of money selling this completely and totally, I believe, fake story. But isn't it interesting that, people defend him? Like, well, maybe he didn't know it was flares, Stephen. Well, tonight we're going to show you that he knew that in the case of the 29 Palms, he knew it was flares. The witnesses told him it was flares from a military exercise before he released it as an alien spaceship, and he did it anyway. If you love those gotcha moments, boy, we've got some for you tonight. But in order to get into this, I think it's important to present some of Grier's research first. He has a very concise video that's very, very interesting and really does highlight some of the story that we'll be talking about tonight. So just bear with me. I'm going to do something I don't usually do, which is to share my screen, and then I will drop out as the video plays. But before we do that, let me put my fair use banner up, because this is a transformative work. We're educating the public. We'll be critiquing the video that we're sharing and discussing it with our guest tonight, Grier. This is covered under fair use and is certainly allowable by law. So let's get into it. And in case you're wondering, it's at High Earth Orbit _ on Twitter. You can follow Grier and sample some of his research. To be very honest with you, I gave up on that case as soon as I knew for sure, or was fairly certain. No, as soon as I knew that case was flares. I don't have a great deal of military training, but people like Grier do. But I've been in the UFOs for years. I know what flares look like. As soon as I saw this 29 Palms, I said, this is flares. This is so stupid that he's doing a whole media blitz tour promoting alien spaceships. It's flares. Anybody can look at it and tell it's flares. Not Jeremy Corbell, which leads me to a question. There's only two possibilities here. Either Jeremy Corbell knew that it was flares. We're going to show you proof of that tonight. And he promoted it as an alien spaceship anyway, because that's where the money is. Or Jeremy Corbell is the laziest, dumbest UFO guy on planet Earth. You be the judge, friends. But let's get this video started to start off the evening. And we're going to be having quite a discussion with Grier here, who has compiled all this evidence that Jeremy Corbell essentially falsely sold a flare story as an alien spaceship in order to profit. Let's get into it, friends. Let's begin.
Of course, I thought it was flares at first. A bunch of Marines started coming to me. I was able to find them within 36 hours. They saw a craft. So
the tip was basically like, something happened and you should look into it. Click. For a military base. There were a flood of reports that I got of triangle-shaped craft incursions over military bases. Now, I got a tip, a heads up. Who you gonna visit? I got a tip. So I got a tip from 2 bases at the time. But the tip was basically like, something happened and you should look into it. Click. And I'm like, oh no. But it was, from a high up, so I'm like, something probably did. 2021, I got a tip from a couple bases actually, that there was an event, but that's all that I got. And all of a sudden I started, it's like, how am I gonna get to the bottom of this? Started calling around.
Are you recording these videos? Are you getting these videos? How are people giving you these videos?
Yeah, so over the years, sources come to me with military footage and they tell me, look, this has being released and not being properly reported. So all of these people that came forward to me, they shoot flares. They're telling me these. So that's an open investigation. So usually I'll obtain and release footage that's, from military assets, that kind of thing. This was different. I had about 50 Marines plus that saw something that they didn't know what it was. And the reporting system was so broken, they started coming to me. And this was, I got a tip that there was an event and I should find people that maybe photographed it or filmed it. But that's all the information you can. Upon looking at it the first time, when I got the tip that something unusual happened that night, it was just inky darkness of this investigation. I have witnesses, direct eyewitnesses come forward to me saying, we saw the body of a craft.
A bit more about that, Jeremy, because I'm sure you get tons of tips all the time. How do you go through the process of sorting through what is legitimate, what has, some sort of mundane explanation? What is the process that you go through? Because I'm sure there are people explainable. So take us through what your process is to rule out some of the tips that you receive.
Thank you for that question, because 99% of my emails every day is like, that's Starlink, that's Venus, people don't understand that I'm skeptical about this probably more than they are, right? Of course it's interesting. I'd love for a good case, but the thing is that when I get information, people say, well, why didn't you release this almost 2 years ago when it came? Because I don't just take something, frivolously throw it up onto the internet and say, hey, check it out. What I do is I take my time. I get to know the people. I make sure their stories don't change over time. I ask them to call their friends, to go collect more data, more information. I vet their DD-214s if they're out of the military. If they're in the military, I have people I can call to confirm their position. I get their fitness reports. I make sure people are who they say they are and that they don't have some agenda to trip me up or to get me to put something out that is fake. So I take my time. My cases take years. The first word people hear from me, if they end up getting through the barriers and we're on the phone, is you got to have patience with me. I'm on cosmic time. This could take years for me to report on it. So that's what I do, Crystal, is just really take my time. And if I have something like this that we got to get to the bottom of, I can't do it on my own, then I reach out and ask for more information.
I love that. And Jeremy,
I just know it's caught a lot of people's attention. But that night I posted it on Facebook. I went to the Warriors Club and got Wi-Fi. Posted it on Facebook, and it was like maybe 2 pictures and a video, maybe. And I said, I posted the one where you can see the black mass underneath the triangle.
Yeah.
That was one of the pictures. I think that's what got a lot of people's attention. So I post that. I go to sleep. I wake up, check my phone, and this guy, I'm not going to name drop him because he's kind of a big deal. He messages me on Facebook and said, hey, I've seen your post. I'd like to call you if that's okay. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, I don't know who he is. I click on his Facebook profile and I click his links and they're all verified. Like his Instagram's verified. He has a documentary on Netflix and his Facebook is covered in like articles about UFOs, especially from military personnel.
and for the audience, to add to Leg's seriousness, this guy's worked with a man named Bob Lazar. So if you guys want to look up who Bob Lazar is, it's like, this is like an actual famous person.
This guy that reached out to me, he did a documentary on Netflix about Bob Lazar. He actually did it with him, not really about him. He interviewed him and everything. What makes this weirder is that I'm not into this stuff. My dad is, which is funny, but I'm not into like UFOs and all that, or Bigfoot, the cryptid, whatever, where I left off. So the guy messaged me on Facebook, wants to talk to me. I look at what he's uploaded and what he's done. It's all verified. And I'm just kind of mind blown, I guess. And I texted him on Facebook. He says, what's your number? I give it to him. He texts me. And he says, I'd like to call you tomorrow. And I said, okay, that's fine. I call him and I looked up videos before just to verify, the voice and everything. And it's actually him on the phone. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I didn't know who this guy was, but he was on Joe Rogan's podcast with Bob Lazar. And then I seen his Netflix documentary when I looked up his name. So this guy's legit and he's super into UFOs. And I feel bad because I think they're Illuminati, or I at least am not sure that they're not Illuminati.
Yeah, what did you tell him when he's like, dude, like you totally saw aliens or something like that? Did you like, I don't want to like, don't take it the wrong way, but did you like remain humble about it? Like, yeah, like I don't think like this is what you're looking for. Or did you like totally play along with it because now you're gonna get like 15 minutes of fame?
No, so I actually, even to this day, well, he hasn't texted me in a couple weeks, but even recently, I've been telling him like, hey, I'm still a little iffy about it. I'm not sure. Like I don't know. But this guy, when he called me, he said that he has friends in the area that are top military officials. He says that he's spoken to a couple people from that area and like in the military or whatever it was. And he said they all don't know what it is. Said that, I still told him like, hey, there's still a possibility that they are loom rounds. Like,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of texts from him, and he's trying to put out a show now on Netflix or whichever station will give him a home. And he wants me to go in there and interview. So I guess when that time comes, he'll put me on there, and then I can show everyone.
Now, one thing I've kind of noticed with it too is like, it's if I have it right, it sounds like he's very, very convinced that like this is something. Well, yeah, he seems pretty confident that this is definitely like something extraterrestrial, maybe like not something of the world.
At least something abnormal that's not that the average person can't explain. But this guy, the famous guy, he sends me updates still. So this was when was ITX? Like over a year ago?
It was around April and May of last year. Or
Yeah,
it was April and May because I drove out there to see you guys like mid-May, right when y'all left.
He still sends me updates. Like I don't text him first, which is funny because you think I would, but he texts me out of the blue all the time. Like, hey, if I'm getting on your nerves, you can just say stop. Like he'll send me updates on UFOs that he releases, and then he'll tell me updates on his show and everything. Like, hey, I'm just looking for a home for my show. It was Netflix, but after he said Netflix, he said I'm looking for a home. So I'm thinking Netflix maybe shot it down. But he does have a documentary on Netflix right now. But if I do go on that show, I'll definitely let you know. And then since it'll be public anyways, I'll just maybe if you want to do a part 2.
Oh hell yeah, that'd be amazing.
But so I guess he talked to a lot of from what I understand, and then he told me if it got verified through the Pentagon, because he remember the video of the Navy guy through night vision. He saw, I think it was a Navy pilot. He saw like a triangle in the sky through his night vision, and you could see it clearly.
Was this the one where it went from like I think like sea level to like 60,000 feet in like under like a second or something like that? With some crazy story.
Yeah, well, he's actually released 2 or 3 of Navy pilots, but there's one with a triangle. He sent me that one and said this is similar to what you're dealing with. But so he told me if the Pentagon confirmed mine, that I may have to go in front of. It's a 3-letter agency. I don't remember what it's called. CID, is that correct? Does that sound familiar?
CID? Maybe. I'm not. I gotta be honest. I don't think I've heard of them.
Well, it's some type of defense intelligence committee or something.
Wait, so like you would have to speak in front of like congressmen and like senators and shit?
Something like that. Some type of 3-letter agency.
Well,
if it got confirmed through the Pentagon.
Do you own any good suits?
No, I guess I'll have to break up my dress blues and hope they fit.
All right, friends. So let's bring in our guest. Welcome, Grier. Good to have you here.
Hey, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what we just witnessed is pretty shocking to me because, and this is a pattern with Corbell. When he gets caught with something that's an ordinary object, he starts inventing other sources. But I don't know if you've caught this. We never see the other sources or hear from them. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a bluff prover maneuver when he gets caught selling the flares as alien spaceships. He says, well, I have 50 other witnesses. And he's even telling the primary witness, oh, I have top military brass and they don't think it's flares or they don't know what it is. There's just layers and layers upon layers and layers of deception, in my view here, to create a fake story, right?
Absolutely. To lend credibility to what he's saying. Absolutely. Yeah. It's very concerning, and it's blatant taking advantage of veterans. I mean, that kid, that young 20-year-old Marine was in a vulnerable place. I mean, the guy's not wealthy. The guy is, he's a Marine, so he works all day, every day. He's not exactly living the glorious life. And in comes Corbell in his DMs within 7 hours of him posting these videos on Facebook. And I mean, within 7 hours.
And that's deceptive too, because think about it. Corbell is on national television. He's on these big, huge shows saying, oh, well, I have all these sources that reported these triangle craft at multiple military bases. Then we find out that he just finds this guy on Facebook because he posted a UFO video. So are those sources all fake too? And he's just making up a good story for how he found it. Meanwhile, he's just somebody sent him a Facebook link. That's how he found this story. And he's supposed to have been investigated this for 2 years before he comes out with this story. And remember, he claimed he had multiple investigative journalists working on this story with him. And 5 minutes, if you remember, 5 minutes after he posted this, John from the Black Vault and I think Mick West found those other videos that show the military exercises in the exact area where this sighting took place, where they're dropping parachute flares. Not a coincidence.
Absolutely. I mean, in 2020 was the last year that I could find. 2020, they dropped 20,000 parachute flares over 29 Palms. So think about that, 20,000 parachute flares. I mean, that's a lot, and just during this
statistically,
exercise,
though, that means that some of them are going to line up and look like a triangle. If you brought that many flares, some of them are going to
West actually has a really good deep.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so Mick West, I have to hand it to him. I mean, if there's any doubt in anybody's mind about these being flares, Mick West, if you want to screen share me real quick, he did a fantastic that I only came across this like last week after the debate. I wish I could have used this during my debate that I had over this case, but if you want to screen share, there's a terrific debunk.
Remember, you got to share it first, and then I put it up. So, and you've muted yourself again. Well, I guess he's sharing the debunk here. We'll get to that in a moment. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go. And you could play it right now.
All right. Yeah. So the photo on the left is a photo taken by a United States Marine Corps photographer from their public affairs office the night at the exact moment that the sighting was happened. And then on the right is the video taken by one of the Marines that was roughly 7 to 8 miles away across the mountain. It's basically like the mountain, the flare was dropped in the middle of like this exercise that was going on the other side of the mountain. And then you've got these, 50 Marines that are on, the other side, and they're each like kind of, the same distance away. So it's perfect. It's perfect in the fact that we can match the pictures up. I mean, this is really fantastic work by, I have to hand it to Mick West. I mean, he did.
Yeah, he always does a good job. He does a great job, and it matches up so perfectly. And the fact that Mick West can do this in a few minutes, and Jeremy Corbell is investigating this story for 2 years, I don't believe that one bit. I think he's a hype man. He's hyping up flares as something more than it is. Just like he hyped up a convicted pimp fake scientist as a government scientist, Just take whatever material you have and manipulate it so that you can get the most bang for your buck when you sell the story. It's very clear and evident to me that he did that. Pentaxstein says Mick West is solid. Thank you for that, and we appreciate you for helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
And we've got another one from Pentaxenstein who says, "Give me the gotchas." Well, we're delivering tonight. Thank you, Pentaxenstein. Well, we've got two gotchas. I think, Ryder, one of the biggest gotchas is that this original witness who took the original video that Corbell used and pictures posted on his Facebook page is telling Corbell, I think that this is alum flares, right? Alum rounds. I feel sad. The quote is, quote, I feel bad because they're alum rounds. That's what he tells Corbell upon first speaking to him. So right in the beginning, Corbell is told by a military guy, these are likely flares. And he just ignores that and goes and sells an alien spaceship anyway.
One thing that kind of lends some, I guess maybe like the benefit of the doubt we can kind of give to the Marine and even the other witnesses, is that those are infrared flares. Those are Lu 19 flares. And the thing about an infrared flare is that they're actually near, like they're actually in a spectrum called near IR. So it's near
infrared. Yeah. You can still
and
see
that's
them
like
with
right
the
there.
visible eye. Yeah.
You can, absolutely, especially if it's bright enough. It's like security camera. You know, they have like the red ring of lights around security camera, the lenses. It's the same thing. And I saw it in Afghanistan where, we would have, like I personally did not fire a type of IR illume. Like we just fired the typical flares, but I saw some IR illume flares being fired and they're extremely bright, like red dots. Like I say extremely bright. I mean, they're bright enough to be able to notice, and they're about 2,200 lumens, which is about 130 candle power per flare.
Yeah, I have seen this exact ordinance at McGuire being dropped at McGuire Air Force Base for training exercises.
Yep. And so I mean, I can understand why these Marines say, like, they were being honest. Like, I'm not calling any of these Marines liars, like not at all. And I've actually spoken to the Marine, the witness.
It seems like but if you noticed in that clip you shared of this original witness, he seemed a little starstruck by Corbell and wanted to kind of play along. It sounded like, well, this guy's famous and he's got a documentary on Netflix. And notice that he mentioned that Corbell's trying to get a new documentary on Netflix. So is this really about the search for the truth, or is this about the search for some UFO dollars? I know what I think, Interesting that matches up so perfectly.
And I mean, if you, I'm looking to pull up right now a video comparing IR flares to normal flares. But the thing about the kid is, like, if you notice, I mean, the Marine, like, he kind of went into a lot of detail about, like, the way that Corbell conducts his, his sources, the way that he kind of handles that personal relationship, the way that he sends, texts, the way that he maintains communication.
And he's telling him, oh, you might have to testify before Congress. You might have to testify in Congress. So he makes them, he's pumping them up and making them feel important. And
keep in mind, all right, so that podcast that the first part of my clip, or the second part of my clip is from, that podcast only had 8 views as of last week. And I'm still not going to be able to release the podcast because I'm respecting the Marines, his wish, is to stay anonymous. So I'm not going to bring him into it. I can't even tell you what the podcast was, but you can probably find it if you look hard enough, I guess. But his actual, like, birth name is attached to that podcast. So I can't tell you what, but you can find it. And the thing about that podcast is that it was filmed in 2022, 1 year after the sighting, but 1 year prior to Corbell coming out with his story. So it's like right there in the middle. Yeah. So it's good to get kind of like a sneak peek, and then we can see the after, which I've got clips of kind of compiled, where we can see the way that the Marine story changes. And it's not like he starts lying, but he stretches the believability fact. It's like he just kind of stretches, and kind of becomes a bit more, a bit more malleable, to Corbell's wishes, is what it looks like. And now he's saying that it's 100% not flares.
Oh, so he's changed his tune now, right? And now he's saying it's not flares for sure. After Corbell gets to it.
He's saying that it's a craft. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, he said that it was a craft even on, like, the weaponized interviews that he did. He was a bit more hesitant, but the interview that he just did on a podcast 2 weeks ago, the one that hosted my debate with Ty,
Total Disclosure,
he was pretty confident. Total Disclosure podcast. He was pretty confident about.
I don't want to say it again, Grier, but any show with the word disclosure in it, I don't trust to be accurate and honest with them. So first he says, I told Corbell I think it's alum flares, parachute dropped flares. That he says a year before Corbell comes out with the story. Corbell comes out with the story. Now he's saying it's a craft. He's sure it's a craft. So a bit of an evolving narrative there then.
And Also,
and the fact that the fact that we have to argue, there's verified records from the government that show that these flares were being dropped at the exact time, just about the exact GPS coordinates, the exact date of his so-called triangle spaceship sighting. You know, it's like Occam's razor should apply here. And the fact that we even have to argue about this, and by the way, I give you a lot of credit because Grier is one of those people, he couldn't let this go. Like, I let it go right after it came out. I'm like, this is flares. This is so stupid. I'm not wasting any more time on it. Grier kept going and digging for more and more information. And now we get the stunning confirmation that the original witness basically tells Corbell it's flares.
Yeah.
And he runs with the story anyway.
The thing is actually, like, I've only been taking a look at this case for a month and a half or so. I mean, I wasn't a part of the community at all. Who's TPOM?
Third phase of moon. Somebody is talking about.
Oh yeah. God,
no, they're supposed to change, and that's all they do is sell fake UFO videos. That's all they do. In one form or another. We've made whole documentaries, two of them, about how fake they are.
Weren't they supposed to have like a debate between, I think it was Grier and it was some other big name. They were supposed to have
Grier and Elizondo. They tried. It's like, I love how people want to take sides, though. Well, my guy's the real deal and your guy's a liar. No, both Grier and Elizondo are both liars. That they're just here for
I don't
money,
believe any of them.
No, I don't believe.
And I mean, Grier's been pretty successful. I mean, Grier's got to be up there, like at least in the top 5, right? As far as people who have profited.
Oh, I think that he is the most profitable UFO grifter in history. And we know that, Grier, because you can look up his crowd-funded documentary projects. I think there was 3 of them. 2 netted $500,000 or 3 netted $500,000, maybe. Maybe there was 4. And 1 netted over $1 million. The Atacama documentary crowdfund, over $1 million. And the funny thing is you can look at those documentaries. Anybody that is familiar with video or documentary filmmaking can look at them and say, there's no way there's $1 million on this screen. So I agree. I'll admit it's speculation. I think he collects like $1 million, then he drops like $20,000 or $30,000 on some guys to help him make a documentary, and he just pockets the rest. It's a great business. I don't know that for a fact, but I've challenged him. Release the receipts showing that you spent $1 million on this documentary, because it's not on the screen. Anybody familiar with video can look at his documentaries and say this is not $1 million production. It's like, you know. It's like 30 to 40% stock footage and guys sitting on a couch being interviewed. That's not $1 million, you know? It's great. But back to this Corbell thing. So, you know, it appears that we could show a pattern of Corbell knowing that something isn't extraordinary and pretending it is. Do you agree with that assessment? Because we've got the jellyfish video, and notice he sends the guy the pyramid video, which isn't what he claimed. It's not pyramid spaceships. It's a bokeh camera artifact. And he tells the original witness, this is what you're dealing with, pyramid spaceships, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just
I think that's pretty crazy. And I tell you what's funny is that Ty from Total Disclosure podcast, he actually did the same thing with the kid where he kind of let him on and he said that, oh, well, your case in the Phoenix Lights case has a lot in common. And it's like, because Ty's trying to get the Phoenix Light case kind of brought back up, like, or he's trying to turn this into the next Phoenix, you know, and like he's trying to turn this into his own Phoenix Lights, I think. And he's having I think an author who wrote a book about the Phoenix Lights case, having her on next month, or I think this month, at the end of this month. So he's been, you know, I mean,
yeah, I don't really know that
guy,
and I don't have anything against him, but I think that he's where I was like years and years ago, and he hasn't let go of the fact that most, if not all of this stuff is completely and totally fake, and the promoters of this stuff are completely and totally fake. But, you know, you get into I've heard it be described. Running a show like this is really, I don't do it anymore, but it's been described as dancing with the devil. You can't be honest and just say, like, a lot of this is fake or most of this is fake, because your audience wants it to be real. So you got to do the dance. And that guy, I don't have anything against him, but he's still doing the dance. and he's still hosting very less than credible people you can't get the truth from liars. So if you're hosting liars as guests, telling everybody you're trying to get to the truth, you're not doing any favors. I see your screen share. What is this here that we have? This is another.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not calling Ty a liar or anything. You know,
no, neither am I. I don't know him.
I'm just saying
in fact, we talked about
he's
doing
trying
a show.
to drum up, the case.
We talked about doing a show together, and I just wanted to have a conversation with him that I wish somebody would have had with me years ago, because I could save him an awful lot of time and heartache trying to do the dance. So here's the normal flares, and here's infrared flares. Interesting. The normal flares are very much brighter to the naked eye, right?
Yeah, but keep in mind, like this isn't the naked eye right now. This is photography that probably has an IR filter. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody in the chat can answer if like a professional photographer, because this is who's taking this video, or yeah, it's a professional nighttime photographer, night sky hunter. And so
Sure,
maybe like fancy cameras have a filter on it. I don't know, but you can definitely see the visible light though. If that's the case, I'm pretty sure that cameras don't have an IR filter. I know that cell phone cameras do, but yeah. And so then right here, you can see these are pictures that were taken by the Marine Corps photographer that night. And these are flares, 2 flares that were dropped by an aircraft. Supposedly, like that's one point that the people who are pushing this case make, is that, oh, well, they dropped 2 flares, these 2 flares on the bottom, they dropped them over the triangle so that they could identify the craft. And besides the fact that that's a safety nightmare, because dropping a set of flares over an aircraft, I mean, if it gets sucked into like the air intake or something, or whatever the propulsion system uses.
If you were trying to identify a craft, I don't think you would drop flares. I think you would just break out the night vision.
You would absolutely
right?
not. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it's ludicrous. And
because what if that was an aircraft with? That could be, if you can't identify it, it could be an aircraft with their communication system down, and you're going to burn it up with flares. Let's just drop some flares on top of it. It's so stupid, right?
It is really crazy. And then I'll tell you this is a photo. So the photo on the right is one that the Marine brought to Ty's podcast, and this is a brand new photograph right here on the right. And check out all the redness. And does this look like a triangular craft to you? This is a photo that Ty posted. Yeah, exactly. And you can even see the redness. Yeah. Yeah. And then right here on the left, you can even see hold on. I'll see if I can find a photo for this. But you can even see where the smoke, that's one thing too, is they talk about how the craft, the triangle, how it kind of moved away when the 2 flares were dropped. But you can clearly see like the smoke trail where the wind caught the, flares and kind of moved them back. Yeah.
That's not called intelligent control, fellas. That's called wind pushing parachutes.
And then they say, oh, well, the triangle, it blinked out. All right. So it turned off. Yeah. Exactly, William.
Here we have
exactly.
William Runner. We have many military people in our audience, and William Runner, this is worth repeating for the audio podcast listeners. William Runner was in the military. He said, I dealt with illumination flares many times when I was in the Army. When I saw those pics, I knew right away what they were. They were illumination.
Hey, so just to give a little background on myself, I also was in the Army, and I was a 13 Bravo, which is a cannon crew member. It's basically field artillery. And I deployed to Afghanistan, and my platoon fired more rounds in our deployment than like 98% of any of the field artillery units that deployed during the entire global war on terror. So like I fired a lot of rounds.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for paying for it, but
well, to be honest, I'd much rather pay for it than have to go fight a war, one of my cousin's sons was in Desert Storm and Shield. So, my family is well aware of the sacrifice that you guys made, because a lot of you didn't come back the same. And I have tremendous empathy, and I'm proud of you guys for going over there and doing what needed to be done, and
thank you,
keeping us safe.
I mean, thanks.
Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate it.
yeah. So if
Got
you're
here,
you're the perfect
share
guy to
my
look into
screen.
this situation. Isn't it funny how the world sort of puts us where we need to be sometimes? Like, you're the perfect guy to look into this and make a judgment call here based on your military experience.
It's like so during the debate, like a big sticking point was, oh, well, IR flares are invisible when they're not. I mean, they're not. If it's bright enough, and depending on if it's like near IR or if it's, the higher IR, I think 750 is invisible to the naked eye. But these flares are more like 850, between 8 and 850, I think is what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I always get my numbers mixed up, but it's
near infrared. It's not full infrared. And isn't there a such thing isn't there a such thing as a full infrared flares that they use for target marking, so people with night vision can see that infrared flare, but nobody else will see it, or barely anybody else will see it? Isn't that sort of a thing?
I'm not aware of any flare that is full infrared that is completely
okay. So I'm mistaken.
lacking invisible light.
I'll default to your.
They all have like a red glow, but I mean, it's okay. So think about it. It's like 2,200 lumens for each flare. So think about like a 2,200 lumen light bulb, or think of like 3 of your house light bulbs, put together and then suspended in the sky. Like, would you be able to see that? Yeah, you'd probably be able to see it but it wouldn't be super bright. But these IR flares, the Lu 19 flare lights up a kilometer, and that's a kilometer radius. So it's actually 2 kilometers, like a diameter of 2 kilometers, which is that's an insane amount of distance.
That's an insane amount of distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't you think
that they last for up to 12 minutes? Like, they last for up to 12 minutes, and they only fall at it's 4 feet per second is what they fall at. So basically, these 5 flares, they fell at one Empire State Building height. So basically, they fell the height of the entire Empire State Building over the course of their descent, which isn't a lot. I mean, if you're 3 miles away, which is what the Marines were, I mean, it's like, that's not that high. I mean, if it's
not a huge
that
distance
over, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you know what I was thinking about is sometimes you have to follow the money. Like, I don't understand how people don't realize this, Grider, but like, if your wallet is directly connected to, you have to find videos that may be alien spaceships visiting Earth, you're going to find some, right? And whether it's flares or balloons or misidentified things, it's like, he's like the boy who cried aliens. We get the pyramid spaceships. Oh, it's aliens. No, it's not. It's a bokeh effect. And we'll get the jellyfish. It's a cluster of balloons, dude. And there's always all of this bluffing that he does when he gets caught. Like, no, there's more witnesses that we're going to come out with that prove it's not balloons, but then you never see those witnesses. And in this case, he said there was 50 military witnesses that said it wasn't flares. And we never see or hear from those witnesses. It's a big bluff.
Wait, so do you actually think jellyfish? Okay, so you kind of buy the, I think it's the Mick West debunk, right?
I think it's a cluster. I think it's a cluster of balloons, which were very common in the area at the time. And given Corbell's track record of overhyping and over sensationalizing ordinary things, I just don't believe anything that he says, like, it's the boy who cried wolf. Like, he could come out with a 100% alien spaceship tomorrow and nobody would believe him because of his history of fakery and fraudery. And thanks, High Speed Chase, who says, I saw an alien yesterday. It looked like Dr. Grier. A likely story, but thanks for helping us to praise the cash. Good to see you, High Speed.
Praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, we've got some more to share with you. Grider comes packing with receipts. I love it.
Okay, so
and this is some illumination rounds. Yeah.
Oh, heck. So actually, okay, so I guess if I split my screen, that's weird. Okay. Okay. So right there, you can kind of see they're in the triangle formation, and that's to provide like maximum illumination. Of course, those
to
are
the area,
not, but those aren't IR flares, but it's still the same thing. And those are Marines. shooting, and those are actually mortar flares, but it's the same concept. And then let me see if I can. I'll show you what I think the jellyfish is. This is my personal theory. I think because during that time, they had a big problem with ISIS. Not in that part of Iraq, but in the other parts of Iraq, ISIS was starting to use suicide drones, and so they had brought in like a balloon system as like an early warning, not just the aerostats, but my theory is that it's a helicite. That's what I think the jellyfish is. I think it's a helicite system, which is a tethered, basically like a mix between a balloon and a kite. Yeah, it's my own personal theory. I don't think
I have made something like this with helium balloons and a kite out of frustration for having a kite that wouldn't stay in the air.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the thing that, okay, so let me pull up a picture of the jellyfish. So what I think that we're seeing in the jellyfish, all of the like all those stringy things. Oh, and also one thing is that Mike Sinkowski, so like the main witness for the jellyfish, he kept saying, oh, hey, he kept calling it the spaghetti monster, right? That was his nickname for, the jellyfish.
Yeah.
Well,
very serious UFO research here.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what like hangs down from a, like there's a bunch of strings that hang down from a helicite. So that could be considered spaghetti noodles. And it's and so let's take a look. Here's a picture. So what I think we're seeing is, it's kind of, okay, I'm gonna have to unshare my screen. But basically what I think we're seeing is like the sensor wiring. That's what all those stringy.
Oh, here, I'll take that down for you then. I'm sorry.
I think it's the sensors like that are inside the balloons. I think it's the wiring going to the cameras and the various, it may be like a meteorological sensor that they have inside of these. I mean, you can put anything inside of a helicite. You can put motion sensors, and you can have the balloon tethered, and then you can put a thermal camera in there. And I think that's what we're seeing is the wires going from like the power source to the sensors to the storage,
could very well be
antenna. Yeah.
I forgot to tweet that we're live now, so please pardon my typing, you audiophiles that like to send me hate mail. Here, do you want me to add this? Oh no, that's you still have that. Yeah, so
the big thing about the jellyfish case, and this is something that I kind of, I was actually kind of a fan of the jellyfish case, as in it took me a couple of weeks before I kind of realized that there wasn't anything to this. And what really kind of steeled me, kind of like made, me firm in my position that it's not something that is anomalous or even that's a threat, is just the casual demeanor that Mike Sinkowski, the Marine, who wasn't a witness, he was a kind of a secondhand witness, but the guy who made the rounds, just how casual he was talking about it, how he said, oh, well, I was not concerned about it. I wasn't, I didn't feel threatened by it. And yet he was the counter UAS guy, the counter unmanned aerial system specialist for his like company. So that's his job, would be to prevent, a drone from coming in and, blowing itself up. I mean, that's his.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very real world danger, right? That's a real world danger in a combat situation. Those guys were using all kinds of improvised devices. So it stands to reason that they would try to pack some explosives or biological weapons or something on a balloon and float it over a U.S. military base. That seems to me like a real world threat that they should be concerned with and guarding against,
Yet the Marine witness laughed about it. Like he was telling jokes about it. He was not talking about it as if it was a threat. And I know that, things that I was threatened by, like, for instance, let's say like a rocket, like I wouldn't come back and, laugh about like a rocket, story, like telling you about a time that like we got rocketed and I'd be laughing about it while telling you the story. No, I wouldn't be like crying about it, but I'd be, I would be a lot more serious. He was joking about it, like just joking about the jellyfish. And I think that tells you a lot, but the jellyfish was
it wasn't something serious. It was some weird thing that happened on the base and people talked about it. That makes kind of sense, And I don't know, I kept
Exactly.
seeing the pictures of those Arab balloons that were used during that certain Muslim festival that happened right before this event took place. I think that was one of the most likely explanations, but yours is just as good. I haven't seen this. And I didn't even think about those. I'm aware of those. By the way, my father was something of a military aircraft, like fan and historian. He was a helicopter mechanic, but he loved weird things that flew. He loved Zeppelins and blimps and, anything that flew. So I've seen those sort of experimental kite balloon things before, as well as a lot of lighter than aircraft. He had a big thing for Zeppelins and things like that for some reason. My father did, and space planes and things like that. That's just as good of interesting explanation. I just don't you think it's kind of stupid that they jump straight to it's got to be aliens? Just because you can't identify it, you can't just jump right to aliens, right? Like, you got to go through everything that it could be first. And they never do that. But I know why. It's because their purse strings are directly connected to the aliens explanation,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree that it's kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. I think there's a big element there. I mean, going back to even as far back as the 1980s, how, the Air Force, OSI used, Paul Benowitz to kind of spread disinformation to kind of give plausible deniability for classified programs to, be testing, for classified aircraft to be flying, and then, have the UFO community believing that, that all these classified, projects were the result of alien, meddling, that it wasn't, actual government technology. That was the whole, campaign of disinformation that, the guys like Doty, kind of perpetuated throughout the community.
Sure. Yeah. Now he's a darling. Now he's a darling. Now he's a darling of, and I don't know if you heard this, but Richard Doty is basically paying a show host $100. In exchange, he gets to go on that show and say whatever he wants. And I just think it's so, this is
I didn't get paid $100, and I had him on my Spaces. I made the mistake of hosting a Spaces with him and this guy who was claiming to be a whistleblower.
I interviewed him one time.
Did you get paid? Did you get them Doty dollars?
He didn't pay me, and I think this was earlier on in the show's history, and I don't think that he realized that I was going to really press him. I'm the only person who ever asked him, do you regret what you did to Paul Benowitz? Don't you think you could have handled that better? And the other reason that I interviewed him is because I was sort of researching a book about the history of the government's involvement in UFOs. And during that research, what I found out is that both Richard Doty's uncle worked for Project Blue Book, and Richard Doty's father was involved with government UFO studies as well. But I only had a single source that was telling me this, and there was scan or little documents to support it. So I wanted to ask him directly, did your uncle work for Blue Book? And he confirmed that, yes, his uncle worked for Blue Book, and gave me some more details. And again, that his father was involved in UFOs working for the government. So it's just, Doty's an interesting character. And so much of UFO mythology, people don't realize this, but the Dulcie Bay stories, that all came from Doty. MJ-12 likely came from Doty. The Serpo files, those definitely came from Doty. So much of UFO mythology came directly from Doty, which is interesting. And now he's paying show hosts money so that he can get on and say whatever he likes. And I just think it's funny
I'm
that
I'm gonna.
Yeah, maybe
he has to send him, an invoice. Yeah,
it was just both $100.
But yeah,
but I just think it's so crazy that there's a show, again with disclosure in the title, that's taking $100 from a known, admitted, paid government UFO disinformation agent, and then they bring him on the show like he's a big star. It's just bizarro world here. It's so crazy.
Who did that?
This disclosure tonight, this Thomas Pfister show.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't pay attention to all that.
Yeah, this is some of the recent stuff that's coming out about that. That's the same show that was doxing members of their staff, or co-hosts were doxing people for hosting people that were critical of Lou Elizondo. There's all kinds of stuff coming out about that, and there's secret recordings that people claim Lou Elizondo is sending people to attack his critics from that show. Oh, we're going to do a separate show on it. It's good stuff.
Nice. I have kind of a cool video that seems like, here we go. Check out this. This is a video that I came across a couple of, well, hold on. Here, let me share the audio actually. And this video is cool because it's a good way to, it's a good way for, people to kind of judge how like well they're able to perceive what they're seeing like within a video as far as, depth
the
perception.
eyes.
And
I know better than most people that the eyes are the easiest to fool, and the mind comes after, especially if you use a little bit of psychology.
And
I just wanted to announce that Red Panda Quell is in the live chat. We're going to be talking about all the latest Lou Elizondo exposés and revelations with him and Tupacapra tomorrow night at 9 p.m. That one's not to be missed.
Oh, nice.
I'm a little bit behind here.
They're always coming behind me, stealing my thunder, man. All right,
I can't wait.
Yeah, so just watch this. So just watch this video, and I think it's 25 seconds long, but just see if you can tell what those lights are, and at what point you realize that they are what they are. So just watch, and the sounds I think kind of loud, but it's good.
Yeah, that could be mistaken for a pyramid spaceship with lights on the edge or something. Whoa, look at that. That could definitely be mistaken for a UFO or something extraordinary, especially if it was a little darker. Yeah, it looks like it's dropping an orb from the middle of the craft, right? No, I haven't been abducted by the insectoids yet, but thanks for being a member and being concerned about the insectoids. Oh, and you could see the airplane. Is that the airplane that's dropping them on the right side? Or is it pulling a string of them? Yeah, the eye is pretty easy. I'm saying it looks like there's an aircraft. Is that like pulling a string of them? Or
those are 5 jets. Those are 5 individual jets.
Oh, wow. I thought they were flares at first. Wow. Yeah.
Right?
See how easy the eye is to fool. Yeah, look at that.
You never in a million years would have thought that those were 6 or 5 jets, right? I was blown away.
Yeah.
Until they got right up on us. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easy to fool the eyes. Yeah, I think a great deal of so-called UFO cases are misidentified aircraft.
Absolutely.
I have a cabin high up in the mountains, Grider, and I see shit in the sky all the time. But I know now to go to the satellite tracking because I've seen some Iridium, some satellites I think they're making course adjustments, right? And boy, it looks like something extraordinary until you go to the satellite tracking and you go, oh, that's what it is, right? Or even just regular aircraft. Maybe it's the atmospheric conditions because you're so high up in the mountains, but things look weird up in the sky at night,
Absolutely.
And it's a little creepy. You're in the woods by yourself and you look up in the sky and see strange things. It's easy to get, to get taken away into your own imagination, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm pulling up some other videos of, personally, I'm of the opinion that there's like an epidemic of, people mistaking flares for UFOs in the community. Even guys like Patrick Jackson, who I actually like, and I actually like his work. But
is
even
that the
he,
guy?
Posts some stuff.
Guy?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, but and he's a nice guy and he's smart, and he did his work, but even he gets he posts some videos where it's like, nah, those are definitely flares. And
cognitive
it's so
bias.
common,
Yeah, it's cognitive bias.
It's
they have The right way to do these kind of investigations is to not have an agenda. And that's so rare because if you go to the alien agenda, that's where all the money is. So, of course, there's going to be bias and cognitive bias, and people's preconceived belief systems are going to affect, what they think something is. I don't know. It's hard to be impartial when there's no money in being impartial. And thank you, UFO Cholo. Thank you for your kind comments. A lot of kind people in the audience tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Let me all right, just in case there's any, let me play or show you guys where
fair use. I just have to do this. We'll put our fair use banner up, and I just want to mention that any videos that we're sharing is under fair use because we're discussing them or using them to educate the public and critiquing the videos that we're sharing. Oh, this is looks like you've done your research on flares here.
All right, yeah. So this is part of a video that I'm going to release right after I get done with your podcast, and it's because it's got kind of a quirky, it's kind of a shit talking type of video. So I'm not going to go through the whole video. It's got carnival music and stuff. I'm kind of poking fun at my debate opponent, but here's how.
Yeah, isn't that Arthur
John
Preston?
Greenwald,
Wasn't he like really anti?
He's my opposition,
Wasn't he very anti MH370 conspiracy, Arthur Preston, or am I confusing him with somebody else? So I was kind of surprised that he was on the alien bandwagon for a bunch of flares. I don't understand. I have to look into make sure I'm thinking of this right person. There's so many people that I encounter.
Is that his belief, like he's taken it completely like, completely in left field. So he is saying that it is a pre-bunking operation to cover up that was a classified government craft. That was a classified government platform. That was a piece of our technology. That was not an alien UFO. That's what he's saying.
So some kind of black project.
Some kind of black project. And yeah, that's what he's saying. But it's
that's basically a lot. That's a lot of people's explanation for the Phoenix Lights, because there were some verified flare drops, but people said in the Phoenix Lights case, oh, they dropped the flares to cover for the UFO, which many people believe that Phoenix Lights. Many people believe the Phoenix Lights was a black project, and here's why: it followed a highway. Its flight path directly followed a highway. And one of the things you learn if you become a pilot is if your aircraft is in trouble, you look for and you follow an interstate highway. So there's that. Looks like you've got a lot of pieces of this puzzle here.
I actually have I had a Phoenix Light debunk handy. I hate to say debunk, but there's just no other quick way to explain it. It's the best word. Where it was actually some out-of-town National Guard A-10s. Here we go. Let's see. And this is coming from, I got it from the Wayback Machine from AOL.com. So this is from an AOL.com member page. Long gone, 1998. So in mid-July, the story of the Phoenix Lights happened. Or that's when the story broke in the Arizona Republic. It's front page story. And but comes out that Arizona bases, there was an Operation Snowbird that was happening, which is basically where Air Force National Guard pilots from all over the country come to Phoenix during the winter or during, the, I guess, late winter, early spring to practice. And so the discrepancy where the initial reporting from the Air Force, at that base right there outside of Phoenix was, hey, well, we didn't have any flights up. Well, they were telling the truth, but they were visiting National Guard A-10s, a squadron
they had
of them
some flights up. Yeah,
they were up, and they were active on the range. But it's to the point now where it's like the more that you try to fight people, that's one thing is once I put the information out there, I just kind of let it go. If people want to keep on believing whatever they want to believe,
I love the A-10 Warthog. And little known fact, did you know when we were kids, G.I. Joe, the bad guy's airplane in Cobra was just an A-10, the Rattler aircraft, which makes no sense because it would in the cartoon they'd be fighting with jet fighters. and the A-10 is, you know, for low is for Army combat support, basically tank killers. They fly low and slow and kill tanks. So that's funny though. I always remember the A-10 and the Rattlers from G.I. Joe cartoons. They
dude,
just
it's a
painted
sweet
it blue.
sound, dude. Like, oh man, dude, when they fire their front minigun, you know, their front like Vulcan gun, it's like
I've seen
them.
Yeah, I've seen them at an air show once. Yeah.
Yeah, man, they're
I
like
guess they
flying
fire
tanks.
blanks or tracers or something for the air shows. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know what's didn't they try? They were going to get rid of those like 3-4 times, and then they finally figured out like we need those things. They're very useful in a battlefield situation to get rid of
Close air
tanks.
support. Great.
Yeah, close air support. Yeah,
they're perfect. Do you want to watch this video on that I made on infrared flare visibility?
Yeah,
and I'll
give us the full data
9
dump
minute,
here,
and I mean,
Grider.
okay, and I mean, I think it's pretty. I mean, I think it's more of an entertaining video. It's kind of poking at my opposition, because he's been especially. I don't know. He was especially heinous, you know. So I guess, you know, I mean, I can make a little joke video in return, but it's nothing personal. And
We will allow it.
We
will
speed up a
allow
little
it,
bit.
Grider.
Yeah, I mean, it's like nothing slanderous or anything.
So we can't really even measure if it was falling or not.
Red flares, blue 19 flares, and I have the documents to prove this, and I have a demonstration that shows the comparison side by side, like shooting side by side in the same video of infrared and normal.
I like the avatar that you chose.
They're invisible to the naked eye.
Wait,
so they're not IR flares.
Are IR flares? Naked to the invisible?
IR flares.
Are IR flares? Are IR flares? Naked to the invisible to the naked eye.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's just go on and squash this job in the Marine Corps. Maybe it's
Right.
top 3 are
Yeah, and here's what we saw earlier.
All right, so you guys have seen these pictures.
Yeah, definitely not naked. Definitely not invisible to the naked eye.
That's what IR flares are.
I realize the volume's low. I can't do much about that. There's a Chrome add-on called Volume Booster you may be interested in. Either that or I'll get with you off air to show you how to normalize. Some of the audio on your videos are a little low. Yeah, Arthur's convinced IR flares are invisible. I beg to differ on that point. Definitely not.
All right, so I'll skip ahead because this is like, it's like 8 minutes of him being wrong on tweets. Yeah, I mean, it's like almost 3 minutes of him just like saying that IR flares are invisible, and even Mick West shows up, you know, to see if he can change, and no, he can't. So, all right, so here we go. Here's the end of it.
I always say, Grider, I always say, don't bother him with the facts. His mind is made up.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, get that dopamine hit from, you know, arguing, you know. So right here, all right, so these are, I go through, I do a little thing. All right, so I look up in the U.S. military explosions, explosives, munitions, logistics, basically like their inventory guide. All right, so, yeah, those are wrong. And then these are right. So LA-05, there were 5 of them that were expended on April 20th. LA-05, near IR, found the patent right here. Here's what they look like. Made by ATK right there. And Yeah, so that's basically it. Just kind of like showing that. All right, so they shot. They expended 5 Lu-19 flares that night, and it's just kind of and also the big thing is that infrared flares. So like basically, as far as the case goes, all right, so the witness is completely not credible. I've proven that. The fact that he kind of that's without a doubt, and that was really the basis of my opposition's case. That was his entire thing was, the witness that, and he kept trying to put me in a position where I had to call the Marines liars, or I'm not calling them liars. I never have called them liars. I would say that.
Well, you could say maybe they're mistaken. Yeah.
I'm going to say that they went with the flow of things, and that's what I'll just leave it at that. But and then the second part was that IR flares are invisible when they're not, and I know that from firsthand experience. But it's hard to prove that. Like, how can you prove to somebody that IR flares are visible with the naked eye when every camera that takes photos and videos has an IR filter? So you can't prove that it's like visible to the naked eye. Unless you can find someplace,
unless you can find someplace where they're dropping the flares and you interview people, like, do you see those flares in the sky? Okay, you do. All right.
They would say that I paid off witnesses.
I know. Isn't it frustrating when you show somebody like overwhelming evidence they're wrong about something and they refuse to concede the point? I get that a lot myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
people always, if they can poke a hole in what you're saying to prove they're not wrong, they will. It's disappointing sometimes. 5x5 News, who's somebody that does have a lot of camera experience, says there are tons of videos of them. Also, every camera does not have IR filters. The image sensor is what captures the
every cell phone camera.
Every cell phone,
every cell phone camera that would be taking videos of flares. Usually, that's But that is good to know that every camera doesn't have. So that means probably professional cameras, high-end cameras, don't have IR filters. I assume, right? I mean, I guess is what he's saying.
Yeah, I have a pretty good experience with. I'm sure that I have some cameras that do have an IR filter or an IR setting, and some cameras that don't. But I'm not entirely sure on that situation. Pretty interesting though that you could show somebody a military manual, and they still say no, you're wrong. Like, I don't get it. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just confirmation bias. It's people that are just unwilling to, they're just unwilling to change their mind no matter what. And you know what? I mean, I've put out the information. It's the same point that I came to with the MH370 stuff, where I just finally said, enough is enough. And I popped into one of Ashton's streams the other day for the first time ever that I've ever watched like one of his streams longer than 10 minutes. And I sat there and I watched a good half hour, and I was just amazed that he is saying the same stuff that he was saying like 3 months ago, as far as I know. Like
but isn't his following all but gone now, and his level of influence has dropped, or is it?
It's the same as far as I can tell. 3,000. Wow, it's like 3,000 viewers. So right here, this is pretty interesting, guys. So this is a video. So they're coming out with these flares now. They're like, it's hyperspectral, or it's either hyperspectral or multispectral, which is where they're IR and they're normal visible flares. So they've got like both spectrums, and it's for like ambushes, to where you start out where the flare starts out as like a orange, bright, visible light. And then once it burns off, it burns in the near IR. Or in the less visible, and then that way, the enemy would, in theory, like pop up after the IR dims, pop up after the flare dims, after the first, part of the flare dims, the big bright, orange, glowing orb, once that goes out, they think, oh, well, now it's good to move. And then they get up to move and they get they get killed. You sit there and you wait for them. If you have night vision, is what I assume they're used for, but who knows? But this video that was posted a while back and got pretty popular with the experiencer crowd, the believer crowd, this video is 100% flares. And I think I think non-credible UAP reports said that he was able to geolocate this to like somewhere in Arizona. Oh wow, yeah, my screen's really lagging, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably a bandwidth issue like we talked about before the show. But no worries.
Sorry about that, guys. And yeah, so I didn't just okay, yeah. Okay, I still got it. Is that better now? Like, is that
it still looks laggy, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, well, these are what I think are multispectral or hyperspectral, dual spectrum IR flares. They're IR and then they're also visible. And I haven't been able to find a patent for it. This is my own theory, but you can clearly tell that, there is a distinct change in the color of the flares where they kind of go from an orange to kind of a whitish. And I that's the only thing I can figure. And I've never seen flares like this before. And like I said, a person in the community was able to locate it somewhere in Arizona off the highway. But it was over a military base. And yeah, I mean, it's just really, I don't know, man. It's just really concerning that so many people, I mean, it's not concerning, but it did bother me for a long time knowing that people spent, wasted so much time and that they're going to waste so much time just looking at flares.
Yeah.
It's flares. So like, but I mean, if people like looking at flares, I mean, I admit like they're fun to look at. They're very pretty and everything, in the night sky. I mean,
interesting thing to see in the sky for sure. But if it's just flares, it really doesn't have any value as far as, UFO, so-called UFO research goes. It's a flare.
Yeah.
It's like, Stanton Friedman used to say things like, some of these reported UFOs are balloons. Don't care about that. Some of these reported UFOs are flares. Don't care about that. He didn't care about the things that had prosaic explanations. He was more interested in the truly mysterious ones that could not be identified by normal earthly, prosaic explanations. I feel the same way. Like, if we can quickly deduce that these are flares, then this has no value except, I guess, to put money in the pockets of people who will promote that. And we want to thank Anthony Peterson, who says, I still want to believe, but this is a convincing takedown. Sigh, I want my anti-gravity ship with the warp hyperspace engine.
Right?
Don't we all? Praise the cash, Anthony Peterson.
Praise the cash, praise the cash.
Do you want to go on? I mean, I guess let's want to move on to, kind of finishing up talking about Corbell, I guess, now that we've established that the flares are flares, like, what are your thoughts on like, how do we move forward? I'm like, is there anything to do? Like, can we do anything? I don't think there is anything.
I mean, here, I'm going to unshare your screen. Here's what I think. I think that if somebody has a proven track record of pushing ordinary earthly objects as something extraordinary, and we can clearly establish that they're profiting from taking that position, then we need to approach anything they do in the future with a incredibly high degree of skepticism. Because at this point, Corbell has a proven track record of pushing incredibly ordinary things as something extraordinary. Case in point, Bob Lazar, convicted pimp, fake scientist. He pretended was a real scientist. And to this day, you'll still see articles written that say something like, former government scientist says. He's not a government scientist. And then we have the pyramid UFOs. That's fake. We have this flare case, which you have demonstrated tonight to most reasonable people's, to most reasonable people, this is flares and nothing more. We have the original witness who tells Corbell it's most likely these kind of flares, but I don't know. And Corbell coaches him into helping him sell a fake story about space aliens. So, we have the stupid jellyfish thing. That's an ordinary object. We have the misidentifications in that TMZ documentary. Just the list goes on and on.
The best was when he released 6 frames of something. Like, do you remember that when he did that? When he released like 6 frames of a video, he's like, "This is 6 frames."
There's a reason that he does that kind of thing, and I think it's to give debunkers as little data as possible. Because if you give them all the data, it's easier to debunk. And there's no other reason to withhold the data other than it's going to get busted faster, and all of his stuff that he releases is very suspicious. So, most of me thinks with people like Corbell, Grider, you said, "Oh, I wasn't really part of this community." But let me tell you something about this community. You can get caught dead to rights, 100% proven faking shit over and over and over and over again, and you still have a career here. We caught Linda Moulton Howe selling completely and totally fake pictures of aliens as real pictures of aliens, even selling one set behind a paywall, right? We caught her doing that twice. She still has a very lucrative career. Look how many times Corbell has been caught selling completely ordinary things as, this is a craft. This is extraordinary. There's just no consequences for getting caught. And Third Phase of Moon is the famous. There's two full documentaries about all their fakery and fraudery. They still have a career here. So there's no consequences for getting caught selling fake shit. They all do the same dance. They play dumb or they make excuses like, well, we didn't have time to research it. My favorite is Third Phase of Moon released, they called it the best UFO footage of a certain year. And I went to Flight Radar 24 and I showed on my show that in 35 seconds, I identified that craft as a high altitude balloon in 35 seconds. So either they did it intentionally or they're so dumb and so lazy they can't do 35 seconds of research before running to sell the best UFO footage of the year. It was a high altitude balloon, weird looking one, but it was still a high altitude balloon. So I think there's the major problem here is something that will never be fixed. And that is you can get caught faking shit over and over and over again. And all of these people have been caught. Stephen Grier has been caught faking flares as alien spaceships. Richard Dolan involved with the Roswell slides hoax. Every one of these major promoters of UFOs has been caught selling completely and totally fake shit over and over again. And they still have a career here. It's still very lucrative for them. It's
Don't
like they just
Jaime
get
Maussan. Like how many?
Yeah, at least 60. He's been involved in at least 60 hoaxes. And they're still idiots every day posting about those dumb mummies on Twitter. Every day they come across my feed. And I just think you are dumb as shit or dumb as rocks if you believe that Jaime Maussan, after producing 60 hoax fake stories, suddenly he has real alien bodies all of a sudden, right?
Kimakata's my boy, though. Kimakuta, he's like the main aliens guy. He and Megan are like my two favorite people on Twitter. I can't join in on this bashing the mummies thing, but just, I'm just going to leave it at that, Sorry, it's a personal bias, personal allegiance.
This is what I ask all the people that are promoting those mummies. I ask them this, and I think this is very fair. I say, can you tell me where your grandparents are buried? And usually they say, why? And I say, because if you're okay with promoting those Mexican, or they're not really Mexican, South American so-called alien mummies, you are okay with people digging up human remains, ripping apart the bodies and gluing them back together with plaster and animal bones to look like an alien so that somebody could make money. So if you're okay with Jaime Maussan doing that, then I guess you'd be okay with me digging up your grandparents and I'll make some money too. And that conversation doesn't go well, but I think it's a valid argument. If people are okay with Jaime Maussan employing literal grave robbers, and let's be clear, this is how despicable it gets. They're digging up dead babies to put these things together in some cases. That is just absolutely despicable to me. And I can't support anybody that supports that, knowing that 100% dead to rights proven, the first bunch of those that came out were that. Dug up human remains, ripped apart, put back together wrong, put the leg bone where the arm is, put the arm bone where the leg is, put a llama skull on there that you shaved down because that looks more like an alien. It's despicable, some of the stuff that happens here. But the alien mummies are one of my, it's too much for me. you know. And then the people who promote that, they say stuff like, well, look at this scientist who said this. It's scientists that are being paid by Jaime Maussan to say things. It's not independent. I always say, show me an independent, credible medical doctor or scientist that says these aren't human. And nobody can do that. It's always some wackadoo that's being paid by Maussan to be part of the hoaxes. And in some cases, in the first bunch of those, one was a Russian, so-called Russian scientist. He wasn't a scientist. He was a con artist. And the originator of all the mummies to begin with, yeah. And the originator of the first 3 or 4 of those mummies was a convicted con artist. He was convicted for fraud in his home country. That should be a red flag.
He's in jail right now. That guy's in jail right now. I think his name is Marco. Yeah.
Yeah. That guy's a complete and total fraudster. That should be a red flag that this shit isn't real. It came from a fraudster. 2 fraudsters. Jaime Maussan been involved in 60 or more. You know, he once they took a dead marmoset monkey and shaved it down and dried it out.
That's what I was just about to pull up. Like,
yeah.
Okay, so I actually made.
And then there was the fairies. There was the fairies with L.A. Marzulli. Those turned out to be just pieces of animal, bird bones jammed together and stuff. You know, that guy's Maussan has been involved in so many hoaxes. It's ridiculous. So for anybody to promote what he's showing us now, it's like, did you forget about the first 60 times he made money off of fake shit? Isn't that relevant here to the discussion? I think so.
Right.
But the people promoting that stuff, not so much. I wanted to ask you before we
memories. So.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you before we end things, because you mentioned you did the same thing I did with MH370. You kind of got involved and then you were like, this is too stupid, right? Like, that's another case that is just ridiculous. Like, how many CGI and VFX experts have to come forward and say these videos are fake and here's why before Ashton gives it up? And I haven't checked in with him. I'm sad to hear he still has a big following. He's been wrong about everything. What's he saying about the free energy scam? Is he still promoting that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have absolutely no idea. Like, I couldn't tell you. Like, I stopped, following the entire Ashton MH370 thing back in mid-June is when I kind of gave up and I, left, the debunker group that was doing the research, kind of opposing, providing some opposition and stuff to, the MH370 believer crowd. And, since then, like, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. And like, I have him blocked and he has me blocked. So we just kind of, which is a good thing, I mean, like that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But,
you don't want to see, I just, at some point I checked out of that because I've spoken to at least 4 or 5 VFX and CGI experts who all emphatically, and each of them can show me science, with their expertise in science, like, here's how the videos were faked. We have the guy who took the still images coming on the record and saying, I took those images. Here's my plane ticket receipt. Here's where I was when I took them. People geolocate it. Yes, that was the location. It's just, it's like a mountain of evidence that those videos are fake, not to mention that they first originated on a fake UFO YouTube channel that had other fake UFOs on it. You
want to know my theory about who made the videos? Like, I have a pretty strong theory. I think this guy named Ivan0135, the guy who made the Skinny Bob videos, I think that's the guy that made, because the Regicide Anon account, because so both accounts, the Regicide Anon account that put out the MH370 videos, and then this Ivan0135 that put out the Skinny Bob, they both kind of used the same type of, they both had these videos, and you can find it on my Twitter profile. Like, let me see if I can link it real quick. But basically,
the Skinny Bob video was great. I think that was for a hoax. It's well done. But the giveaway is using an aged film effect on top of the video. That's what gave it away to me.
It's it's clearly like a video game engine, like maybe Unreal Engine, or I don't remember what they had back then. It's clearly like a video game engine with like a filter overlaid, with like an old timey filter. And they actually found the timey filter. Like
yes,
I found,
they did,
and but it's that same type of like, technique of overlaying videos. It's like there's two videos that are almost identical, where it's like a craft, kind of flying on the horizon. It's for the Red Side Anon video. It's the one, I think it's called Bomber in WW2, something like that. It's like supposed to be back in World War II.
I've seen that one,
and then the one from Ivan 0135, I think it's like a car driving on a highway, and off in the distance on the horizon is a craft kind of moving, and then it ends with some dead bodies on the beach, with some dead alien bodies on the beach. Yeah, well, they look identical, and that would make sense too, because Ivan was active back then. He was a prolific, hoaxer. I think he did it for more fun than anything, but I don't know. Who knows?
I got to tell you though, at first look, I was, I have a background in puppets, and I've done puppets for film and television. So a lot of people say, "Oh, that's a puppet," and I'm looking at it going, "That's not a puppet. It's got to be something else. It can't be a puppet. The blinking is too good. The muscle movement in the face is too good." But the one thing that I missed when we did a show on that is the filter overlay. And then I saw somebody else had found the filter overlay, and also the stupid sound effects of a film projector. Like, why would you, it's just, that was too much too. I mean, exactly. I kind of knew it was fake, but I still was like, it's a really well done fake, I think what kills it is that filter, though. That's a dead giveaway, because people found the exact aged film overlay that he used to make it look like old film.
That's what kind of killed the MH370 videos for me, is the drone footage looked like, it didn't look like thermal. It actually looked like thermography. I mean, it looked, like it was thermographic.
Looked like they colored it. It looked like they colored it to look like thermal film to me. But isn't it interesting that he builds an entire following? He builds this huge following on fake videos, and talk about cognitive bias. He at one point said, "Okay, the videos are fake." Then he changed his mind, and went back to the grifting. I guess because the super chats are great when you're doing that kind of grift.
He only made about $5,000 like off of super chats. Really, like I think it's not about. I don't think it's about the money with Ashton. Maybe the free energy stuff is, but he only made about $10,000. I mean, I say only. I mean, that's still $10,000.
Yeah, I mean, I could use 10 grand.
Chats, right? Yeah. I mean, but super chats and other revenue between $7,000 and $10,000 up till June. So like from October of last year to June of this year. I think it's more about that he woke up one day and was 41 years old with nothing. It's like, just kind of wanted some purpose, wanted some clout, wanted people.
No, that's exactly what I've said. The Ashton was one of those like just invisible nerds that nobody ever listened to or cared about, or knew who he was, and suddenly he gets into this thing. It's got to be hard for him to let go of it, because this is his whole identity now, and he's got that little bit of internet fame from these stupid fake videos. But I really worry about the people that follow him and still think those videos are real. Like, I worry about them. Like,
I mean, it's a bunch of, like, you'd be surprised. Like, he has a wide range, like, for his demographic. The guy's got, like he has a moderator who is like a 56, 50 to 60-year-old, I don't know, kind of white trash, kind of person, and always talks about going to protests and like her hover around and stuff, and like smoking, cigarettes and like, stuff like that. And, like while she's like protesting Elon Musk apparently on her hover around and funny stuff like that. And then she's got people that are like, PhDs, then he's got people that are PhDs who are his fans. It just doesn't make, he's got smart people. He's got normal people. He's got poor people.
Oh
smart,
yeah, it's not all stupid. It's not all stupid people. But one of the things that I'll tell you from being involved in magic shows is that the more educated a person is, the easier they are to fool. That's been my experience, because they come up with
That's
all
what Art
kinds of
Levine
like,
told me.
they come up with all kinds of very advanced explanations for how the tricks are done, and it's usually super simple. That it's so simple they miss it. You know, somebody said
That's exactly
Ashton,
what Art told me
Science,
one day.
Evidence, and Fringe said Ashton's logic. There are so many free energy videos on YouTube. Some of them got to be real. Yeah, and I happen to grow up building all kinds of electronic things. I built so many of those stupid free energy devices from eBay plans. Guess how many of them worked? Not one.
Yeah.
So that left me going, you know, and I wanted to ask Ashton when he started the free energy thing, like, how many of these devices have you actually built? I could show you some old pictures from my basement of me building those things. I still, to this day, I have a box over there with crystal energy cells from Hutchinson's plans in a box over there. You know, so the fact that he has, well, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'll donate them to a homeless person that needs a free energy charger, like Ashton was talking about. But
there you go.
You know, I wanted to ask Ashton, how many of these things have you built to sit there with 100% certainty and say these devices are real and the government's covering it up? Then show me a working device. You can't, you won't, and you don't have the real experience. Like, go talk to people that have actually built them. I happened in Philadelphia to live near somebody who had something called Foxbat Energy Labs. And he has a warehouse with, like, it's got to be thousands of weird devices like these free energy things. And guess how many of those work? None of them. Some of them tantalizingly kind of work a little bit, but not for more than, you know, a day or something. You know, there's always some tantalizing thing that keeps you interested when you're building these things. Like, and then the purveyors of these things will say, well, you made a mistake in the construction and that's why it didn't work for you. Or, you know, they have some excuses for why they don't work. But in Ashton's case, it's like, here's a guy that just found some videos on YouTube and was completely convinced they're real. And we all
He found all the evidence too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
he didn't do any of that research himself, you know, but
no, it's
the thing about the free energy stuff is that, yeah, but I mean, if you're the type of person that he can convince that Diego Garcia has an underground, like, black site prison and it's a coral atoll, if you're the type of person that can be convinced that Edward Lynn, you know, leaked 2 videos and only got like 7 years in prison, if you're the type of person that can be convinced that, you know, an on-fire jet flew for an hour back across the Malaysian peninsula and then got teleported to Diego Garcia in the middle of the day, by the way, or in the middle of the morning, by the way, when sunlight would have been out, and there's no place to park an on fire, there's no place to hide an on fire, you know, 777 on Diego Garcia. It's like there's no hangar big enough, you know. And if you're the type of person that can be convinced that Philip Wood, you know, made or hit a, you know, his iPhone in his ass for 10 days and then made a phone call or made a post to 4chan, you know, a plea for help to 4chan. If you're the type of person that can be convinced of all of that, then you can probably be convinced that, you know, he has a free energy machine that works, you know, and that's really the crux of it is, like, I think he's been kind of softening up people with this MH370 stuff, you know, because they'll believe anything that he says now. Like, no matter what he says, they'll believe it, you know. So I hope that he does monetize it. I hope he, you know, makes a lot of money off of it, you know, and then, you know, gets locked up for fraud or gets sued, you know. Like, I hope it all blows up. That's the thing about Ashton. Like,
well, all
I
it's
hope
going
that
to
he
take,
gets more popular, you know.
All it's going to take is one family member to find out that he made 10 or 20 grand off of their family member's tragic death, and he's probably going to have some legal challenges to what he's doing. If my family member had died in a tragedy like that, and some idiot was on the internet with these massive conspiracy theories, you know, and remember that some of his proof or so-called proof is so stupid, you know, like, the head of Marvel VFX said that the videos are real. Well, you got to know you got to dig into
where
that.
He got that from?
He got that from an anonymous Reddit post. Anonymous Reddit post.
He got that from Ty, apparently, from Total Disclosure Podcast.
Well,
supposedly, that's what somebody told me. Is that like it was somebody that he knew at Marvel that supposedly said that?
Yeah, but you never get an on-the-record source that will confirm that he actually worked for Marvel. It's an anonymous Reddit post. So on the side of the skeptic, we have at least 10 on-the-record, verifiable, real people who are CGI or VFX experts who say, these videos are fake, and here's why. And they give their full opinion and breakdown, with evidence. And on Ashton's side, you get, well, some anonymous Reddit poster said they work for Marvel VFX and the videos are real. So those debunkers are wrong. Or there's an anonymous Reddit poster who said he was the head of virtual effects for Marvel or for Top Gun 2. And he said the videos are definitely real. Well, who are these people? What are their names? Well, we don't know, but here's a Reddit post. And I kind of think like, if you were selling a grift, what's to stop you from going and making that post yourself, just so you have some, pushback against the debunks, but you never get on the record real source. I can't call that guy and say, did you say this? Can you show me your resume that shows that you worked for Marvel or for Top Gun? You don't get that from him. It's empty,
a lot of that.
Fake, it's empty fake evidence from Ashton. It's sad.
Yep. Yeah. And then he'll say, oh, well, in order to prove that the videos are fake, you need to find the airplane. It's like Jeremy Corbell said the same thing. Jeremy Corbell said something similar for the 29 Palms. He said, well, you need to find me the pilot that was flying the plane that dropped those flares. But check your DMs. Check your DMs. And there's a guy, a really fantastic guy, fantastic. I wouldn't call him a debunker. Fantastic dude named Tony. And Tony made a recreation, the best recreation I've ever seen. And it's of the first satellite video. Made it from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of Ashton's fake talking points. Well, if these videos are fake, then you show me how you can recreate it. And then Ashton said stupid things like it would take a team of 6 experts 6 months to a year to fake these videos.
Yeah, ridiculous.
And meanwhile, Kreisly also, she made recreations live on her YouTube channel in an hour. She made a recreation. So this is interesting. Looks very similar on first glance.
I think it looks. It looks better. In my opinion, it looks cool. Like this is probably my favorite. Probably my favorite MH370 video is this one right here.
Yeah. I'm going to put my fair use banner up and just remind everybody it's fair use. We're critiquing video and educating the public.
Oh, Tony would love. Oh, Tony's cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that's a pretty good recreation.
Do you know, what is his,
it's in the post. Like I tagged him. All right. So go down. And then Tony Adams right there. The first one.
Okay, right Tony Adams. I just want to give him a shout out. So it's at Adams _AT did this recreation. So nice that, and that directly refutes Ashton's fake talking points that it would take a team of experts 6 months to a year to make these videos. I've talked to experts like, no, I could make that in a couple of hours. Maybe not exact.
That's what Tony said.
Yeah, a couple hours. So all of Ashton's fake talking points really fall apart under scrutiny. It's not that, and he's verifiably using fake evidence to refute real debunks from real on-the-record experts. And when I can't stress this point enough, on the skeptic side, you have on-the-record experts. Here's my name. Here's my resume. Here's my show reel. Here's my work history. Here's my real name. I'm saying these videos are fake, and here's why. And on Ashton's side, well, some anonymous Reddit poster said that he worked for Marvel, and those videos can't be fake. There has to be some kind of standards of evidence. And when it comes to this MH370, there's no standards. It's like Ashton can just use fake anonymous Reddit posts to refute real on-the-record experts. And when you put both of those things on a scale, the real on-the-record experts blow this out of the water. You can't take anonymous Reddit sources as the same weight of real verified sources,
Yeah. Hey, here's a great tweet that speaks to that. So this is from probably my best buddy on probably my best buddy on like Twitter is this guy named Craft Beard. Like he's big in spaces, but he said something really that I thought was really great. And so he said, quote unquote, a big reason more qualified researchers don't actually get involved in fringe subjects is because what the rest of the world absolutely recognizes as fundamentals of logic and the reasoning remain up for debate. Not only are standards of evidence not agreed upon, they're not even acknowledged to matter. You know,
Yeah,
so
it don't matter.
You know, him. Yeah.
William Runner says Craft Beard is awesome. You have to check him out.
Yeah, Craft Beard's the man. You know, but he's, you know, the same frustration that, you know, we all experiences, you know, being on kind of the skeptic side. It's just, I don't know. I think sometimes it's kind of pointless. Like, I mean, I just wonder how much longer, like, what's the lifetime of a skeptic on, like, in the UFO community before they finally get sick of it and just decide to give up? Like, what do you think? Like a decade, maybe?
Yeah. And then I always say that there's a truth tax too. Like, you know, I could pull up 10 other YouTube shows about UFOs or aliens right now that make 10 to 100 times more than I do. And they constantly lie to people every day. Every show, they're lying to people, or at least doing that dance with the devil. And doing a big part of this, of promoting this stuff, is the lie by omission. You know, like, just give people half the story. Don't give them the skeptical side of the story or all the evidence the story is fake. But I could pull up 10 or 100 shows that are about UFOs and aliens. They all make 10 to 100, maybe some 1,000 times the money that we take in here. But to be clear, I'm happy for the support that we get, and I'm not going to lie to people. At least my show is unique, and that people know I'm not going to always get the story 100% right, but I'm going to give you all the evidence that I find, you know? And so, yeah, at some point you say, like, why am I wasting my time making 1/10 of the money of these clowns that just lie to people? It's so much easier to just play along and take the money, right? But there are some people that have, I don't know, I kind of feel driven to show people. I like this peeling back the layers of deception and showing people the truth behind how these stories are made, you know, and I consider what we do here sort of a public service. So it's kind of like PBS or something. We're not going to make a ton of money, you know, but we're going to do good for the world in showing people the reality behind the deception. But yeah, I think a lot of people get,
you know, Kraft actually calls it harm reduction. You know, he actually calls it harm. Yeah. Like he's doing harm reduction by debunking, you know?
Yeah, because, you know, I get emails all the time from people that say, oh, I used to donate to this person or that person, but your show showing me this taught me that I shouldn't be giving this person money. They're lying to me. Yeah, you know, and we get to wake up some of those people. I like to jokingly call it the second red pill, because isn't it funny, Grider, that so many of these people are like, we're here for the truth. And we're getting to the truth while they're actively deceiving you and lying to you. It doesn't make any sense. And these people think they're red-pilled and they're truthers. So I like to joke that Truth Seekers is the second red pill. You took the first one. Sure, there's some strange and weird things in the world, and conspiracies are real. But you need to take the second red pill to realize that a lot of these things are just manufactured hopium garbage.
Do you have anything that you think is like not easily explainable? Like, do you have any case, any sighting, anything, photo, video?
Listen, I've done so much on Roswell, and I still can't let go that it may have been something extraordinary.
Because of the books, right? Because of because of the like accounts of like people on their deathbeds, right?
Yes. One of the things is the Children of Roswell book, and you could say whatever you want about the authors, but I've talked to at least one of the people that were interviewed for that book. And I just don't believe that a bunch of people on their deathbed would start telling their children they saw these little creatures and the government covered it up. And I have never talked about it until now, right before they die. Like, why would people just start doing that? It doesn't make any sense. And the other thing with Roswell
could be the DMT coming on.
The debris switch. Jesse Marcel Sr. once claimed that in those famous pictures that you see, there's those famous pictures where they show this debris to the reporters. And Jesse Marcel, I'm going to bring up the picture. Just it's a famous picture, but just for the sake of the audience, 1 second, I'll share that. So,
hey, so just so you know, like
I didn't know this, but alien scientists. So Jesse Marcel Sr. claimed that this debris that we see in the famous photos is not the debris that he originally saw and collected at the original crash site. This was a switch. They switched the real material for this, which is verifiably parts of a weather balloon. Jesse Marcel claimed that they changed the story and they switched the debris, brought in reporters and said, oh, it was just a weather balloon. But what a lot of people don't know is that there's a second witness that was there at this press conference and also present at the debris field who also agreed with Jesse Marcel and said they switched the debris. Now, that may be because the debris was from a top secret weather balloon project mogul and had different parts or components, or it may be that the stories of alien crash or whatever are true. I still can't let go of Roswell. It's one of the greatest mysteries. And one of the hard things about Roswell is that there's more books about Roswell. There's more data. There's more things to digest about the Roswell event than any other thing in UFO land. So if you start it right now, let me know in 3 years when you're done going through everything you could find. And once you're done, I'll find you another 2 years of stuff to go through. It's just the volume of stuff about Roswell. So it's hard for me to make up my mind on that one.
I personally don't believe it. Because of the fact that Bill Moore was the first one to write a book about it, and Bill Moore was being puppeteered by Doty, and so like I just don't believe it. Like I don't believe any of the Majestic 12 stuff, but I do believe in aliens. Like I am a believer.
Oh man, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
They're out there somewhere.
100%.
But
yeah,
but I don't think that there is verifiable or real evidence of them visiting Earth. I just don't think there's any there. People are convinced of this though. But what we've done things here like, the UFO crash stories, we've gone through a whole bunch of them. And what you find out when you really go through each of the stories with a fine-tooth comb is that most of them are very flawed, single source stories, no evidence, just a story, or, like in the case of Aztec, the story came from known, proven con artists who concocted the story for whatever reason.
What about the Tic Tac?
Some people say profit. Yeah, that one's a little more difficult. I think the Go Fast and the Gimbal have been adequately debunked. The Tic Tac, not so much, but there's a great explanation for that I'm going to be doing a show on, which is basically a plasma device that's used for decoy purposes. And I believe it's based on where that sighting took place and the fact that there's a research facility with drones and those perhaps those plasma devices that, basically the government has devices where they can put a ball of plasma up in the air to spoof different aircraft or to fool radar systems. And I believe that that might explain the Tic Tac, or it might be
and the Foo Fighters. Maybe it might explain the Foo Fighters too.
Foo Fighters for sure. That's where a lot of that research originated. People think, right? We have one of my fans here. Truth Seekers is a fraud, complaining about authors making money writing UFO books while being driven by donations. You are no different, just another fraud. Well, thanks for your feedback. Now go suck a dick. I just come on, dude. I'm not making millions here. And here's what I always say, Resonate. I will show all of my shows' financials if they'll show their tax returns. Nobody's taking me up on it. And I have income and business interests outside of this show that pay my bills. I don't pay my bills. All the money that comes into the show gets put in a separate till. I have a separate account, and we only use it for the show's expenses. In other words, I'm not living off of it. I'm not, paying my bills or my mortgage from it. That's the difference that you miss. But I allow those comments in here, Grider, because we don't have an echo chamber here, and people are free to come in here and slag me all they want, but I'm going to give it back to them and correct them. There's a difference. Yeah. And by the way, I have never said that all authors are grifters. There's some people that have very sort of dry, studious books that are not really grifty. There's classifications here, and there's some people that are just selling grifty books like Elizondo, fake Pentagon program director. Who cares what he has to say? He's been wrong about everything so far. Yeah, so I guess there's classifications. And then also, Grider, there are people who I truly believe they don't mean to be con artists or scammers. They just totally believe this shit, and they have no sense of, like discretion or discernment. They just believe anything that people tell them, and then they go repeat it or put it in books or documentaries with no proof or evidence. I don't know. So I never have said that everybody's a grifting scumbag, but there's a lot of grifting scumbags here for sure. And I think that tonight Grider has established that Corbell is one of them. More overwhelming evidence of griftiness, right?
Do you actually want to know, like, how big of a, I don't know, I guess I could say debunker in this case, but how skeptical I am is that the reason I got into like the UFO Twitter community is I thought that I was witnessing UFOs on the NASA live feed. And so I created, like, I started watching, I started recording, and then once a week I would watch, because I have like 7 computer monitors. Once a week, I would watch all the footage from that previous week on all 7 monitors at once, looking for what I thought. Looking for what I thought was
night.
Yeah, and I mean, watched it at 8 times speed, but I've watched, probably 10,000 hours of like NASA live feed, and it turns out that, well, what I was thinking was UFOs were actually, it was actually the moon. Most of them were the moon, and I was obsessed. Like, I was out of my mind thinking that I was. Yeah, and I actually still have like the channel up if anybody wants to check it out. It's the ISS live feed or the ISS UAP live feed. I don't know. I'll send you a link to it, but it's pretty funny. Like, I thought that I was sure of it, and then one day somebody mentioned on Twitter, they're like, "Is that the moon?" And I was like, "No, it's not the moon. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm going to be the next Bob Lazar. Like, that ain't the moon. All right, it's UFOs. All right, And yeah. Turned out it was the moon. So always be skeptical is the way I say. That's the way I look at things.
So just an update. King Bull says that guy who is slagging me talks to aliens every day. And I just think it's interesting that tonight we showed everybody the truth behind the 29 Palms lies. And that's the thank you, like, you told us the truth. Screw you, Steven. You're a fraud. Like, come on, dude. It's so stupid.
You know what's crazy too is that, like,
we live in clown world here. This is clown world. You get yelled at for telling people the truth instead of lying to them.
Yeah.
Okay, Resonate. You know what? Me and Grider are completely wrong. Okay, it wasn't flares. It's a goddamn pyramid spaceship, and you better prepare for the alien invasion. Because after all, Dave Grush says the interdimensional space monsters are coming here and murdering Earthlings. We all need to prepare for this shit.
No,
you're
poor
right.
Dave Grush.
Definitely aliens. Yes, and just an update because people love when I do this. Since David Grush came out with his original stories, including his claim that interdimensional space monsters are murdering humans on Earth, it's been 457 days, and he has yet to provide any evidence of his claims whatsoever. None. Zero.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't know. This guy's saying I
he's not out there, he's not out there writing a book and all that, causing, all types of harassment to be carried out. And
the book's coming. It's coming. Don't worry. That's probably what he's working on.
I really think he's going to come out with a book.
Oh, I guarantee.
I thought he was going to come out with like a foundation, a science foundation.
Yeah, he already did that with Gary Nolan. But I guarantee you he'll have a book. And what people don't know is that all these grifters work together. And I think that now is Elizondo's spotlight time. And they put out Grush while Elizondo was busily working on his book for his spotlight time. And pretty soon, Elizondo's whole story is going to get shot to shit by Jay Stratton and a few others as fake. And then he's going to shrink into the background, and Grush will come back with a book or a documentary or something like that.
So here's something funny. Okay, so I just wonder if there's like a grifter group chat or how. Okay, so something happened recently.
They probably have a Discord. Oh, Lou Elizondo has been recently caught. He's been caught in recordings behind the scenes saying that when you see something coming out on UFO Twitter, it's been in the pipeline in the works for 6 months, which proves that this stuff is all coordinated. It's all coordinated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of weird because, okay, so about a month ago, well, maybe 3 weeks ago, I actually held a Spaces that was pretty I mean, it was pretty popular. It was like, I think 700 or 800 people, total, like over the course showed up, but I think peak average was like 180. Yeah. It had Doty vouching for a guy named Charles, who turns out Charles was in prison at the time. We actually knew that going in, but didn't know the extent of it. But
Grier,
and I mean, it was
don't say too much more, because I've got all of the goodies on Charles, and we're doing a show on that, and I've got overwhelming evidence of him manipulating people from prison to send him money so that he could get commissary, and then he gives them alien stories, and he is somehow participating in Spaces from prison, and he's an alien whistleblower. It's a great story. That's how
but I mean,
it's gotten out here.
Yeah, but what I found absolutely amazing, and that's the reason that I brought that space together, is just the fact that Doty was vouching for the guy too. It's like Doty vouched for this dude, and then the moment that Doty found out that he was in prison, like once he realized live in the space, like this dude was locked up at the same time, Doty split town.
I gotta go, guys.
I think there's a lot to be learned about that. There's a lot to be learned from that story, though.
Our friend Area 503, who's the documentary, Manny's got all of the goodies on him, and thanks for reminding me. I have to message Manny. We're going to do that show.
He actually told me to tell you, hi, and I'm actually coming out with my own. So, he has Who's Lou. Well, I'm going to have What the Hell Corbell, and that's going to be my new documentary coming out soon. It'd be my version of
Who's Lou. Corbell. Yeah, but Manny has all that guy's like criminal records and everything. And like confirmation that he's in prison while he's in these spaces telling alien stories, right? And I can't.
I mean, it's all Serpo bullshit.
It's all Serpo bullshit. That's exactly what it is. And
He even follows me around into spaces. Like I was in a flat Earth space, and I was arguing about Project Serpo with these flat earthers. I think 3 days ago. Yeah, I mean, I stumbled in. It was like flat Earth versus the globe debate in a spaces, and I started arguing, Project Serpo with them until I got booted, or I don't know, something happened. But Charles actually followed me into that space, and like he's got the notifications set up, and he was like commenting, like like fighting me about Project Serpo in the comments of this spaces. It's ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous. We have done multiple shows here. I don't know if my audience is or you are aware, but my audience certainly is, that many of these UFO promoters use convicted criminals, especially if they were convicted for sexual deviance or of one kind or another, because I think it's because those guys can't get jobs. So they throw them a little bit of money, they coach them to tell alien stories, and then suddenly they call that person a whistleblower or an alien, an insider. There's a famous case of Bill Brockbrader, who was a court-martialed child predator and is right now a fugitive from justice. And he used to be on Project Camelot with Kerry Cassidy and David Wilcock telling his secret space alien stories. They just forgot to tell the audience that he was court-martialed for basically incest and molesting his sister-in-law, and is right now a fugitive from justice. This is years ago. But that's just one example. And then we've got Wendell Stevens, who was a convicted child predator. We've got Stan Romanek, who got convicted for collecting pictures of children. And you know what I mean by that. And we've also got, what's his name? Jan Harzan, who was convicted for trying to have sex with what he thought was a 13-year-old girl. And he went to the meeting with the girl in a MUFON shirt. So
Wow.
This community is filled with criminals and deviants, and for people to not realize that is kind of sad.
Well,
like the evidence is
because
there.
they
but,
push out all the like normal people, like all the normal people, all the reasonable, grounded people. Most of them get pushed out. They get scared.
Yeah.
Like, forget this. I'm not going to deal
threatened,
with this.
intimidated, harassed, doxxed into shutting up. Don't mess with our alien fantasy. We're just here for the alien fantasy. And if you're going to tell people the truth, they don't like that. It's like coming into the party and shitting in the living room, Yeah. You're not going to be very popular at that party,
Hey, so what'd you think about our boy Mr. Artisan Tony getting kind of stood up, by Elizondo? That was tragic, huh?
I tweeted about this because I think it's so funny. For those unaware, Artisan Tony.
I think it's hilarious.
Listen, I have had my barbs, like we've gone back and forth, and and I think if I never did, then I apologize for being rude or abrasive, because I said, Artisan Tony, you getting these interviews has no value. And he's like, what do you mean, Steven? I'm like, it doesn't do anything if you're interviewing Gary Nolan and not asking about all the fake shit that he's been involved in. Same for Elizondo or any of these other people. It does nothing for the conversation to just softball these guys. And if I haven't apologized to him, I'm apologizing now. But I wrote this: Elizondo cancels interview after Artisan Tony mentions in an X space that he'll ask Lou Elizondo super chat questions. Lou Elizondo is a liar, an intellectual weakling, and a coward who can't take real questions. And Artisan Tony tweeted this 12 hours ago. I am disappointed to announce that Lou has had to cancel the interview tomorrow due to a change in his schedule. I hope to reschedule in the near future. But for now, I am taking a break from social media for a while. Yeah, and come on, Artisan Tony. You think it's just a coincidence that he heard you in a space say, I don't want to ask any rude questions, but if you guys send super chat questions, I'll ask them those questions. Suddenly, the very next day, after Artisan Tony said that he was going to take real questions and give them to Elizondo suddenly had a problem with his schedule, and he had to bail out of the interview. And here, I'm going to share this because we're going to go over this tomorrow night, 9 p.m., all the latest Elizondo drama, but let's listen to this because this is funny.
When's the Lou interview? Really, Artisan? What other interviews you got coming up? Let's plug the channel real quick.
Lou's on the 5th, and hopefully Anjali's right after that.
Awesome.
You should ask him.
I'll take you up
Sorry
on
for
that.
meeting you there, Tony.
No, it's going to be softballs all the way.
Softballs all the way. Hey, you got to do what you got to do, brother.
Now, I need you on the phone.
That he actually deleted.
Give me the hard questions.
He actually deleted my debate with Arthur that I did the first time around. Because me and Arthur called him out.
Here's the funny part. He says, you guys have to come and ask the hard questions so I don't have to. And I'll ask those hard questions. And then Red Panda says, oh, shit, that interview just got canceled. And then it did.
Okay, that interview might have just got canceled, but we will do that if it's not. What time? What time?
11
Be prepared.
11 a.m.
This is
Eastern.
the best thing I've ever seen Red Panda put out.
A signed book too for whoever. I'm going to try to keep a list of whose questions I bring up, and on the screen. I'm going to try to, if I can do that.
Oh, Lord have mercy, bro.
Be prepared, Tony.
This is better than this
Tony,
Polaris
why
documentary.
don't you just ask Lou about the controversy, like Anjali? I don't know if he knows her, but just the controversy.
Oh my God, VC smart.
Is he willing to denounce all this controversy and those on his side? He would.
Yeah. So the issue is that people want whoever interviews Elizondo to ask about this hate group and the claims that Elizondo was directing people to threaten, intimidate,
KMF.
and harass his critics. Yeah, KMF and others.
Ask that they stop doing.
I actually got attacked by KMF
on either
for
side.
nothing.
And anybody that would do that, he would denounce that sort of thing, just so he can have
to a certain extent.
Oh my gosh, VC Smart, J Just, Kent
No, he
Reynolds,
can't acknowledge that.
Artisan
I mean,
Tony.
you know what I mean?
Oh my God, that's like the seventh circle of hell for me.
I don't know how to say that. Really,
He's too good.
Look, if
posed
you
in
can't,
questions, if it's posed by somebody in the questions.
Oh, and there's Arthur. Look, there's
But
Arthur
Anjali
Preston right there
respond,
too.
I think she's going to have a good response.
well, I was going to say that if he can't handle this, he's certainly not going to bring us disclosure.
Right? That's a
Oh, Anjali takes a shot at Elizondo.
great point. I thought that too. Yeah.
Okay. So there's clearly some kind of disconnect going on. I don't know the history here, and my head's kind of reeling. I don't even know what the primary theory is. It sounds like you guys are saying that you believe that he's still working and that he's doing counter intel
I don't know about that. I think he's
to
using his
disrupt,
skills, and
or
I think it kind of stems all from fragile ego. Although for parts of it, he, by his own words, was contracted by Space Force. But I don't think he was tasked by the government to do this. I think it's just more of his ego kind of, and it makes sense. Like when you put yourself out there on the internet the first time,
Sure.
everyone analyzing everything you say and stuff. It's heavy. He's on a bigger platform than anyone in the community, so it's probably heavy for him. I do have empathy with him. You know what I mean? I could understand why I got to this.
So interesting.
That's great.
Tony in a Spaces says, you guys come and ask the hard questions so I don't have to, and I'll ask them. And suddenly his interview with Elizondo gets canceled. I don't think that's a coincidence, Grider. I think that Elizondo cannot take real questions. And he's always got the softball circle jerk from Artisan Tony. So that's why he agreed to the interview, thinking that this will be an easy one. Artisan Tony won't ask me any hard questions. But then Tony says, well, I'll take the hard questions from the audience and ask them. Oh, I got a problem with my schedule. And I need to cancel
I can just see
the
Artisan
show.
Tony. You can just see him sitting there at his kitchen table with his TV dinner or something tonight, just eating it, angry as hell,
I should have went in that space.
I bet he is mad. I bet he's pissed.
Yeah, I should have went in that space. But I think that truly does display something about Elizondo. He's an intellectual weakling and a coward. There's people that are saying that he's directing this UFO hate group. Those are claims. I don't know the full extent of it. But if somebody, Grider, was accusing you of directing people to threaten, intimidate, harass your critics, and they were saying that, wouldn't you want to set the record straight and say, no, that didn't happen? But I think that Elizondo's in a catch-22 because apparently
he's getting
allegedly there are recordings of him doing this, according to this Gary Ack producer that was in on the conversations, but he hasn't released the recordings yet. So I guess maybe Elizondo would be in a catch-22. He can't deny it, and then somebody will come with the recordings and go, you denied it, here's the recordings. I don't know. But
those recordings could be AI, though. It's
to be fair to
Elizondo,
yes, the recordings could be fake. They could be AI.
I'm not. Hey,
these are just.
I think
claims.
Elizondo's a piece of shit.
These are allegations people have made. It doesn't mean that he did that, and I want to put that on the record so that there's no. I don't know.
I'm definitely not repping Lou Crew. That's
no, definitely not. I
mean,
my audience is aware. Maybe you're not. When I hosted Manny, the filmmaker, suddenly I got doxxed. My wife and children were threatened by name because some genius went on Facebook and got my, family's names. They came in my live chat, threatened my family. Rob Heatherly put out my legal name and my street name. And then he said, I didn't dox you. However, if you put my legal name and my street name into Google, you get my address. So he did dox me. Rob Heatherly's a piece of shit. And there's a video of Rob Heatherly where he had 10 hours of 8 and 10-year-old girls dancing on his YouTube playlist.
Wow.
And it was titled Sexy Time Dancing or something like that.
That's what got me attacked by KMF is that I was, is that I blocked him because he kept making those accusations against Manny, and just over and over again. And I just finally had enough and I blocked him, and he found out, I guess he noticed that I blocked him. But those types of accusations, that he was making, it's those can end somebody's life, it's just,
because some nutter could think they're true and come to your house and hurt you or something. And Manny's
the thing is, Manny's the best, he's one of the best dudes we got,
Yeah, he's a good researcher, and it's a shame. He's had his girlfriend and him threatened and doxxed, and it's all in an effort. They can't attack the facts or the evidence, so they attack the person. And
exactly.
I drive them nuts, Grider, because I have a very boring life outside of this. I have no criminal convictions or arrests. There's no dirt. I've been with the same woman for 30 years. You know, like there's no dirt on me to find, so they hate me. You know, somebody even
they do hate you.
They just
They
they
do.
make up fake shit. That's fine. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I come across it, you know, like every once in a while, like I'll come across somebody in Spaces and they just they really don't like you, you know, but I can tell like it's clearly like they're assholes. It's like most of these people are assholes who are saying that.
Come on my show if you think I'm wrong about and listen, the other side won't do this. I tell these people, come on my show and we'll talk about all the evidence that I have presented, that I have formed my opinions on, and you can tell me where I'm wrong. Nobody has taken me up on it. So they can hate me all they want, but they can't argue with we present mountains of evidence here. Sometimes thankful to kind and generous people like you who've done a lot of research that I can look at and say, this is good work. Let's share it on the show because it's true. It's real, you know? So if they can't attack the research, they attack the person, you know?
Yeah. Hey, and by the way, I have on my Twitter profile, I actually I made like a dump thread where I dumped all of my research that I personally did on MH370 on those videos and even on the flight, you know, like I have a bunch of maps of like the debris models and stuff that I found, just a bunch of stuff, a bunch of infographics, collages, just, you know, it's like hundreds and hundreds of, you know, pieces of, you know, what I consider to be evidence. And then I did the same thing with 29 Palms. So all of my research on 29 Palms.
If you send me those two links, I will put them in the description of the video.
Cool.
That's another thing. We share all the evidence here. The other side won't do that because they're intellectual weaklings and cowards with evidence-free stories.
Also, you can find on my Twitter, you can find a transcript of every single Lou Elizondo YouTube interview that he did. Every single one, it's time-stamped. So let's say that you want to clip out and make a bunch of clips about, you know,
I could use that.
Lou talking. Okay, so let's say like Lou talking about, you know, his wife or whatever, or Lou talking about his car. Okay, well then you just type in car in like a PDF searcher, you know, and then you get all the clips and you can click on the link to the YouTube video and have the timestamp right there. And I also did one like that for Graves, you know, for the guy Ryan Graves, you know, the pilot. And then I did one for who else? I did one for Ashton for every single one of his live streams from October of last year to June, I think 1st. I did every single, so it's like twice the size of the King James Bible, you know, the Ashton Forbes transcript. I call it the Big Book of Bullshit. And it's pretty amazing. And it's like 5,000 pages.
Big Book of
But
Bullshit.
if you ever want to know what Ashton's about, you know, go to the transcript and you'll be able to cut through all the fluff, you know?
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on tonight, and I hope you'll come on again if there's something else that you're looking into where you have all the receipts. We love it. We love the receipts, and we'll be providing those receipts in the description of the video. I'm going to throw you out of here and just do a quick wrap up so you could just bounce on
Sounds
out
good.
once I do that. Thanks very much, Grier.
Right,
Don't
take
be
care.
a stranger. Great talk tonight.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye. All right, friends. What a great first-time guest, and I hope he'll join us again. You know, like I said, I kind of checked out of this 29 Palms thing because I go, this is so stupid. This is obviously flares. I don't want to waste any more time on it. So I'll take just a few questions or comments from the live chat. Please put them in all capital letters. But before we do that, I'm supposed to remind you every show that we're a viewer-supported show. And despite the haters, you know, I'm not wearing a $10,000 Rolex watch. I'm not driving around in a new, what is that called? A Cybertruck? What is that, $150,000 Tesla truck? Yeah, I'm not driving around in one of those. I don't have $1 million properties. And the funds that we raise here at this show are used solely to support the show. It pays for all of our software. I'm going to be upgrading some software soon. And it's just to support the show. I don't pay my bills out of this, despite, you know, the critics. And by the way, there's an interesting thread because Matt Ford of the Good Propaganda Show is accusing Mick West of making bank. And Mick West published his Twitter money, which was pennies. So yeah, what are you going to do? All right, we'll take a quick moment. And remember, I will be right back. It's a very quick bumper, just reminding you we're a viewer-supported show and how you too can help. For those unaware, we read every single super chat. I read all the PayPal pledges. Just add a note. And we thank anybody who buys me a coffee. All the links to help the show are in the description of this video or podcast. I'll be right back to take your questions or comments. Please put them in all capital letters. I'll be right back, friends.
Truth Seekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Campion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support.
Okay, we're back. Some excellent questions and comments in the live chat. Kurt Jamunkel, new interview with Luis Elizondo, asked why he didn't put cameras in his house to see those orbs, and he just makes excuses. Yeah, I think that he was expecting a softball interview. I heard that Kurt actually asked some hard questions, so I'm going to be listening to that. We'll be commenting on it tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have all the latest Lou Crew nonsense. Sandra McDonald, thanks for being a member. Always happy to see you, Sandra. Do you think all the Lou dissenters have sold more books of his than he would have otherwise been sold if we didn't get all over it? You know, I don't really know. And remember that a lot of people aren't a part of the so-called UFO community. They're not a part of the so-called, UFO Twitterverse, right? So maybe a lot of the people buying his books don't even know that he's a fake Pentagon UFO program director who lied constantly and hasn't provided any real evidence for since 2017 now. So I don't really know. But of course, a lot of the Lou Crew supporters are saying, like, great job promoting his book when I post about, something about him. I'm not really sure. I don't think that we've helped him sell books. My guess would be that a lot of the skeptics and dissenters have sort of let people know that the book's just not worth the paper it's printed on. That's my guess, Sandra, but it's hard to tell. We want to thank Trolly Troll Troll with a kind and generous $5 super chat and asked, did you get your package yet? Yes, I did, and thank you very much. I thought the t-shirt would be good with a Wilcock mask. Great idea, and I will do that just for you, Trolly Troll Troll. For those that are aware, Trolly Troll Troll sent me a great t-shirt. I think it says something like ask me about my butthole, and it has like aliens and UFOs on it. I love viewers send me things and I use them in the show. I was looking for my dino beaver. I know it's not on my desk any longer, but kind and generous viewers send me things and I always try to put it on the set, or if it's a shirt, I wear it on the show. Thank you very much, Trolly Troll Troll, for two things: for sending me a very nice package and for helping us to praise the cash. Trolly Troll Troll is a long-time channel supporter, channel member. We appreciate your kindness, generosity, and support. Always throwing a couple of bucks in our hat, helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, we're all caught up on the super chats. Looking into the PayPal just to make sure we don't have any PayPal pledges. And for those unaware, we request if you're sending a large gift or pledge, do it through Buy Me a Coffee or do it through PayPal. And just be sure to add a note, and we read your note. We want to thank Maria for a kind and generous $100 PayPal pledge, who says, there haven't been as many shows each week. I hope that you will start doing more once summer is over. Yeah, let me comment on that. I spent the last couple of weeks really soaking up as much cabin time as possible with my family. We just attended the GDS sort of fair, which is a big, huge carnival. They have all these animals and they have all the vendors. I love the food. You know, any place where I could go and eat like pierogies, potato pancakes, pizza, pepper sandwich or pepper and sausage sandwiches, gyros or gyros, depending on how you say that. It depends on where you're from. Boy, they had, you know, candy apples, cotton candy, soft serve ice cream. I just ate like a pig. I got rid of my diet. But in any case, getting in the weeds. During the summer, there's less viewers, so we kind of scale things down. I intended to get more shows in this week, but our guest tonight, Grier, had a power failure, as coincidence would have it, yesterday. So we had to move that till today. I have a show tomorrow. I'm going to try to fit in one more before the end of the week. We may be back to 4 or 5 a week in the next couple of weeks. I have to get the shows sort of the solo shows that I have without a guest assembly lined. And I'm happy to say we're going to have a bunch of guests here. Some guests we've had previously, like Steve Long and maybe some others that you may be familiar with. Tomorrow night, we're going to have 2 guests we haven't had before, but you know them, Tuba Cabra and Red Panda Koala. And we're going to be talking about all the latest Lou nonsense. We've also got Estimate of the Situation, who makes wonderful comics about UFOs and aliens, the best that I've seen. We're going to have him next week. And I think we're going to have Steve Long next week as well, talking all things UFOs and aliens. So I'm picking up on booking more people. Also, we're going to be getting into some things like that we used to cover more, but haven't covered very much. We want to thank Tim, who bought a beer, who says, Stephen, I think I have binged almost every video and live stream you have ever done using the Truth Seekers format. Above all, your work is greatly informative, which I do appreciate. It is also passionate and funny and very human. I hope you're inspired to continue your endeavors for many years to come. I wish you and your family all the best. Thank you very much, Tim, Railroad Bum, for your kindness, generosity, and support. Anybody who buys me a coffee, we try to read those on the air. And thank you for helping us to praise the cat.
Praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, I think we've covered the thank yous. For those unaware, we thank every single person who sends support our way. If you become a YouTube channel member during the live broadcast, we give you a thank you and a shout out as well. And you could also join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. It really, really does help us to keep the show going. And we appreciate each and every one of you who's helping us continue the journey. So thanks to all of you kind and generous supporters. I'll take a few more comments and questions from the live chat. Troll says, I canceled my membership because Google was submitting requests for payment that I didn't authorize and retracting them. This hasn't occurred since I canceled. Well, I'm sorry for that. But you can always join the Patreon for $1. For those unaware, the YouTube channel membership and the Patreon, you get the same extra goodies, just some extra videos. But on the YouTube side, you get a member badge and a few other things, extras. So we appreciate. Bobby Broadway says, sounds like a secret op mission to the 7-Eleven for the bomb burrito is in your future. I ate dinner tonight. I'm good. King Bull, no problem. I wish they did what they said they were going to do. Not sure about that one. Yeah. Let's see if we have any more Yeah, welcome to the show. I'm a longtime fan of Truth Seekers. If Lou didn't exist, what would you be covering in ufology? What else is out there? Well, I don't know, Dave Grush, David Wilcock, Corey Good, Stephen Grier. As soon as one of these guys shrinks out of the spotlight, another one jumps in it. James Fox will be big in a month or two with his new documentary. Scallywag00 says, Lou got trust me broed in the Pentagon. Nothing but hearsay and rumors, zero proof. Yeah, and we know who did that. Hal Puthoff, who's one of the same people that told Rush that the government has aliens with no proof, no evidence, no supporting documents, nothing. It's kind of ridiculous, right? But it is what it is. Welcome to the land of make-believe. You know, all we get is evidence-free stories and trust me bros. King Bull says he did work for the Pentagon. I believe Lou found out some things. However, he may have added things on to make it more interesting. Not saying he has, but it is possible. Kyle Ferreter, I think I'm saying that right. Leslie Keene summoned the ghost of Harry Reid, and he told me it's all real. Checkmate, debunkers. Yes. Yes, Scallywag says, Lou is the new chosen one. It's sad. And remember, the chosen one for a while was Dave Grush. And what evidence or proof did Dave Grush give us while claiming the government's in possession of alien spacecraft and even alien bodies? None. Zero. And coincidentally, Lou Elizondo has made the same claims. And what evidence has he showed us to support that? None. Zero. Funny that. And while certainly some people in the true believer camp will say, well, they're corroborating each other's testimony. That's not corroboration. That's two wackadoos with no evidence telling similar stories, each having no evidence. Two people with no evidence doesn't equal evidence. It may equal a coordinated grift, though. Yes, and I agree. King Bull says, I'm starting to think Rush was fed false info at this point. He hasn't told us anything else since last year. It's a shame. Yeah, and they, you know, it may be a fact that they manipulated a mentally ill autistic man into taking on this role as a so-called whistleblower. But I'm here to tell you, real whistleblowers have evidence. They don't just tell stories. They drop massive amounts of evidence. Imagine if Snowden had just come out and told his stories and had zero evidence. No, Snowden had a mountain of evidence to support his claims. And that's why Snowden is a real whistleblower. You'll also notice that real whistleblowers have consequences. Snowden's been, stuck in Russia since he came out as a whistleblower because the government wants to basically destroy him for blowing the whistle. Grush, zero consequences, right? But his friends have made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars helping him tell his evidence-free story. And what about the consequences of Lou Elizondo? Well, he's gotten TV show deals, book deals, documentary deals, live speaking fees, and more. And he also, Lou Elizondo, has started, I think it's 3 or is it 4 for-profit UFO companies since 2017. Those aren't consequences. These people are not real insiders. They're not real whistleblowers. They're bullshitters. And we would be wise to recognize and understand that going forward. Scallywag, I will believe it when they offer tangible, scientifically measurable proof. Until then, you're telling tall tales. I agree, Scallywag, absolutely. So I want to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors, and we want to, of course, thank our guest tonight, Grier. What a great first-time guest. I love guests like that, where you just have a fun, effortless conversation, and I get to take my entire audience along with me. We had a really good phone conversation, but as always, off air, but as always, I kind of like, whoa, save it for the show. We'll just do this on the show, and I always take you guys with me. King Bull says, I was on the Grush bandwagon, but after a year of silence, it's obvious something isn't adding up. Yeah. And Kyle Ferreter says, Lou Elizondo, aliens are flying all over the place, including inside my house. Other people, how do you know? Lou, I can't get into that right now. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we've done our due diligence. I'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's been a long time coming to have Red Panda Koala and Tubacabra here on the show. We're going to be doing that tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be sharing all of the latest Lou drama claims and allegations. The rumor mill is just going, it's on fire lately. We'll try to separate fact from fiction for you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with special guests Red Panda Koala and Tubacabra. I'll be here. Hope you'll be here too. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambian. Good night and God bless all of you.